Tong Yi was immersed in the game Haishenhua, finally defeating the last stage of the Great Sage's remnant body, only for his computer to explode. Consequently, he found himself transported to the primordial world, transformed into an unborn Kongqi Yuanho, Tongbi Yuanho. As a descendant of the mischievous monkey, he would soon find himself entangled in schemes. Fortunately, he awakened the one-punch shattering system, which allowed him to obliterate anything, converting the essence of all things to nourish himself. From that moment on, he refused to back down, striking at saints and kicking the Luo Jinxian. Hong Jun remarked, "I cannot see through him. Even the golden lotus born from my teachings was shattered by him." Tong Tian declared, "Brother Tong Yi is my idol for this lifetime. If you refuse, just fight. He's so cool." Luo Ho lamented, "He is too brutal. Even my grave was shattered by his punch." Yuan Shi stated, "I would rather have him kick me than throw a punch." Chapter 1. After defeating Haishenhua, I became a Kongqi Yuanho. Ding. Dear readers, please leave your brains here and read this book to activate the system. As dawn broke in a rented apartment, the sound of frantic typing filled the air. Tong Yi's eyes were fixed on the computer screen, flushed with excitement. The game Haishenhua had been released for 2 months, and after playing for an hour each day, he finally reached the final stage of the Great Sage's remnant body. Yet, the challenge was formidable, with 2 forms, the Stone Monkey and the Great Sage's remnant body, each comprising 2 phases. In essence, he had to deplete 4 health bars to succeed. Tong Yi had been stuck on this stage for 4 nights, and now he had finally ground his way to the second phase of the Great Sage's remnant body. Both health bars were nearly empty. The gourd was drained. The mana was exhausted. The Kowtows had been used up. He felt as if he were on the brink of collapse. Fortunately, after 2 heart-stopping perfect dodges, his energy was restored. "Guangxi, save me." Tong Yi's eyes shone with determination as he shouted. His left index finger moved with such speed that it left only an afterimage, and he was about to wear out the F key on his keyboard. In the next moment, the sounds of traditional instruments erupted. A magnificent figure appeared on the screen. In an instant, a fiery staff dance crack. With the last sliver of health extinguished, the Great Sage's remnant body fell. Ha ha ha, Guangxi is amazing. Is that what you call the Great Sage's remnant body? Now look who's down, huh? Tong Yi was overwhelmed with excitement, pointing wildly at the fallen Great Sage's remnant body on the screen. But in the next second, the smile on his face froze, and his eyes widened in disbelief. The expected message of defeated did not appear. Instead, 3 different monkeys emerged beside the fallen figure. What the hell? What is this? A hidden stage? Tong Yi was utterly bewildered. The game had been out for 2 months, and logically, any hidden plot should have been discovered by players. He had never heard of such a storyline. What were these other 3 monkeys? What the? Just as Tong Yi leaned and scrutinized, his recently purchased secondhand game console suddenly emitted smoke. A blinding white light flashed on the screen. What the hell? He hurriedly closed his eyes. A wave of excruciating pain surged through him, and he lost consciousness. Damn secondhand computer. Did it just blow me into another world? And I became a Kongqi Yuanho? In the primordial world, in the southern region of the undying volcanoes, towering volcanoes stood proudly. The sky and earth were ablaze, the searing heat warping the very fabric of space. Within one active volcano, amidst the churning magma, a brilliant red crystal cocoon formed. Inside this cocoon, Tong Yi, now a small monkey with fiery red fur, was filled with astonishment. He recalled playing Haishenhua, triggering a hidden stage. Then his computer exploded. Upon waking, he found himself within this fiery cocoon, with no sense of how long he had been there or how long he had slept. However, based on the fragmented memories he had just assimilated, he realized he had transformed into a Kongqi Yuanho. This was akin to the description from his past life watching Journey to the West, where the Buddha introduced the 6-eared macaque. Alongside Lingming Stone Monkey, 6-eared macaque, and the Red Butt Monkey, he was one of the mischievous 4 monkeys. As a modern-day young man with no particular skills, Tong Yi quickly accepted his new reality. After all, in his previous life, he delivered takeout during the day and indulged in novels and dramas at night. The notion of crossing over was something he fantasized about daily. Yet, he felt a bit dazed, as the bloodline memories held little information beyond confirming his identity as a Kongqi Yuanho. The reason he was encased in this fiery cocoon was likely similar to Sun Wukong, who had yet to be born from the rock. Aside from this, he was utterly ignorant of where he was or what time it was. With no other option, Tong Yi could only recall what little he knew about the Kongqi Yuanho from his past life. However, the records regarding the Kongqi Yuanho and Journey to the West, Feng Shenbang, and even primordial novels were scant. He had no recollection of his origins, place of birth, cultivation locations, or any master, and so forth. What to do? Forget it. Let's just try to get out first. But how do I get out? Staring at the swirling magma outside the fiery cocoon, Tong Yi muttered, then extended his fluffy hand toward the crystal cocoon. At that moment, a voice echoed within his mind. Ding! detected that the host possesses a quarter of the mischievous monkey bloodline, meeting the activation conditions for the system. Ding! Your root bones, innate talents, and divine powers have all been sacrificed to activate the system. Ding! Awakening One Punch System. Ding! Detected that the host is in contact with Jiutian Yanjing. Would you like to shatter it with one punch? Simultaneously, a property panel materialized before Tong Yi like an apparition. Host, Tong Yi Cultivation, Mortal Spirit Bloodline, Kongqi Yuan Ho. Root Bone, none magic, none divine powers, none. Tong Yi's eyes brightened, joy flooding his heart. This was splendid. His golden finger had arrived. He was saved. What is the function of this system? After calming his excitement and observing the virtual panel, Tong Yi was filled with curiosity. In the next moment, the virtual panel changed, revealing the text. The one-punch system can be used once daily. Each use can ignore defenses and realms, shattering all things. After shattering, the essence of the destroyed object can be extracted and returned to the host. What the hell? This is so powerful. Tong Yi felt elated after reading the system's introduction. Although his root bones, bloodline, and divine powers were sacrificed to activate the system, the value of obtaining this system was immeasurable. This reminded him of the dismantling machines in his past life's games, which could decompose equipment for materials. But his ability was exponentially superior. He could obliterate anything with a single punch, ignoring the opponent's realm and defenses. This meant he could crush both living beings and objects with one blow, and extract their essence to become stronger. This was akin to unleashing an invincible cheat. What is this Jiutian Yanjing? Tong Yi asked again, and the text on the virtual panel transformed once more. Name, Jiutian Yanjing. Category, innate item details. Born when the primordial world opened, it formed from the primordial divine fire, merging with the Earth's core fire, containing endless powers of fire laws. Friendly reminder, the cocoon you are currently in is formed from Jiutian Yanjing, nurturing you with the Earth's core fire while also protecting you from external harm until your birth. After absorbing this information, Tong Yi felt a surge of excitement. He had finally acquired crucial world-building lore. Primordial. This meant he was not in Journey to the West or Fengshen, but in the earlier timeline of the primordial world. This realization caused his earlier inflated confidence, brought on by the system, to swiftly diminish. The primordial world was teeming with Tai Jingxian, while the Luo Jingxian roamed freely. In the later stages, there were even multiple saints. Even with this miraculous system, he still needed to be cautious and focus on developing. With that thought, Tong Yi redirected his attention back to the fiery crystal cocoon surrounding him. He was astonished to discover how extraordinary it truly was. If he were to shatter it, what essence could he extract from it? However, he hesitated. After all, the system indicated that this cocoon was nurturing and protecting him. Should the surrounding magma engulf him after shattering, leading to his demise, it would be an unjust fate. Tong Yi scratched his fluffy head, pondering for quite some time. Ultimately, he gritted his teeth, silently resolving, fortune often favors the bold. My awakening signifies that I have successfully been nurtured. If I do not break free from this crystalline cocoon, how is this journey different from confinement? With this thought in mind, Tong Yi ceased to hesitate. He extended his right hand, clenched it into a fist, and prepared to demonstrate to this Yanjing the true meaning of a punch. Whoosh! Wonderful! That dead phoenix did not deceive me. There truly are unborn treasures here. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared outside the Yanjing. Surrounding her were colorful halos, causing the magma to retreat in reverence. Although her appearance remained obscured, her ethereal silhouette and melodious laughter reached Tong Yi, rendering him momentarily stunned. A woman? Who is she? What does her remark imply? Dead phoenix? Could it be that someone has long known of my existence? Before Tong Yi could regain his composure, the stranger cheerfully spoke to herself. The master is about to emerge from seclusion. I must hurry back to Zixiao Palace to present this to the master. He will surely be delighted. Upon finishing her words, she waved her sleeve towards the Yanjing, and a colorful radiance enveloped the Jiutian Yanjing. In an instant, she directly stowed the Jiutian Yanjing into her sleeve and soared out of the volcano, ascending towards the heavens. At that moment, Tong Yi, still within the Jiutian Yanjing, felt darkness envelop him, and the outside world faded into obscurity, causing his heart to tremble. What did she just say? Zixiao Palace? Isn't that the domain of Hongjun Daozu? Yet, he felt helpless. His system could only be utilized once a day. Even if he shattered the Yanjing now, how could he, a mere mortal spirit, contend against this female immortal? With this thought, he cursed in his heart. Who exactly is that dead phoenix? As the Jiutian Yanjing departed, numerous volcanoes erupted, sending torrents of magma soaring into the sky, as if celebrating an event. Finally gone, this entity can be reborn. Deep within the earth, a colossal egg radiating golden light emitted a joyful cry. Chapter 2. My first encounter with Hong Jun, I have finally emerged into the world. 33 heavens away, the boundless chaos space stretches infinitely. Only endless fragments of space and the primordial winds drift slowly, creating an eerie stillness. This place is a forbidden zone for all living beings of the Hong Huang, yet a cave paradise floats abruptly within. The grand entrance bears a plaque with the words Zixiao Palace elegantly inscribed in dragon and phoenix motifs. This is the cave paradise of the foremost power in the Hong Huang, Hong Jun Daozu. At this moment, a male Taoist boy stood beneath the plaque, gazing towards the 33 heavens, his eyes filled with concern. He is one of the two celestial boys under Hong Jun Daozu, known as Hao Yin. Soon, Hao Yin's eyes brightened as he spotted a petite figure shimmering with 7 colors approaching from a distance. Her movements were carefree, gliding through the chaos as gracefully as a dragon in water, and she swiftly arrived before the Taoist boy. Upon landing at the entrance of Zixiao Palace, her splendid, colorful garments vanished, replaced by a simple robe, transforming her into an adorable little Taoist girl, seemingly 5 or 6 years old. The girl, Yao Qi, cautiously peered into Zixiao Palace, relieved to see her master had not yet emerged from seclusion. Yao Qi, you have finally returned. The master is about to come out. Hao Yin approached with a hint of exasperation. He and Yao Qi were both spirit jades, transformed into celestial boys by Hong Jun Daozu. Having long accompanied the Taoist master, they absorbed the ethereal energy of Zixiao and comprehended the teachings of their master, thus achieving a level of cultivation. However, due to their prolonged stay within Zixiao Palace, their appearances had remained childlike. Among them, Yao Qi was particularly playful, often seizing the opportunity to venture out during her master's seclusion. Today was no exception. Oh, you are being naggy again, Yao Qi pouted at Hao Yin. Then, with her round, sparkling eyes darting around, she mysteriously pulled Hao Yin aside and whispered, "This time, I truly found a treasure. You must help me take a look." Hao Yin sighed and replied softly, "There are only the two of us in Zixiao Palace. You need not be so cautious." Yao Qi finally nodded in realization and waved her small hand behind the door. Whoosh! Flames burst forth. The Jiutian Yin Jing, which should have been in the immortal fire mountain, suddenly appeared before them. At this moment, Tong Yi finally beheld the light, but his mood was far from pleasant. For the outside world was no longer a fiery red. Instead, it was filled with radiant purple light. It is said that Zixiao Palace is suffused with purple energy. Could it be that I have truly been brought to Zixiao? Damn, how can I escape beneath the watchful gaze of Hong Jun Daozu? Tong Yi silently lamented, realizing he was trapped. Zixiao Palace exists within the chaos space, and even a Daoyuo Jingxian must tread cautiously within this realm. No matter how formidable his system, shattering the Yin Jing does not equate to breaking free from the entire chaos space. Nonetheless, as the saying goes, a blessing in disguise. Who can discern fortune from misfortune? It is well known that Zixiao Palace is a place coveted by mighty beings across the realms. Hong Jun Daozu is the progenitor of the immortal path, possessing the greatest treasures in all of Hongwang. Arriving here even before his emergence into the world is, in fact, a form of opportunity. The critical question, however, is whether Hong Jun Daozu's attitude towards him is one of favor or disdain. He recalled the Hongwang novels he had read in his previous life, wherein Hong Jun Daozu bore a grudge against the six-ear macaque. The reason being that the macaque had eavesdropped on the Daozu's teachings, prompting the Daozu to utter the words, "The law should not be imparted to the 6 ears." He wondered if this world would follow a similar narrative. Yao Qi, let's go to the scripture pavilion. Perhaps we can uncover records about this stone. The outside world echoed with Hao Yin's voice, and in the next moment, Tong Yi felt the Yin Jing being moved again. He saw Hao Qian bustling around, carrying the Yin Jing as he circled the Zixiao Palace, traversing the garden until arriving at an ancient, quaint pavilion. From the exterior, this pavilion appeared to have only 3 stories, yet within, it existed as a realm unto itself. Looking up, one could see a boundless array of bookshelves stacked layer upon layer. Each shelf was meticulously adorned with jade tablets. Setting the Yin Jing down, Hao Yin began to sift through various jade tablets. The process of reading the texts was simple. One merely needed to press a jade tablet against their forehead. After a flicker of light, if the desired information was not found, he would set it aside once more. Meanwhile, Yao Qi remained perched atop the Yin Jing, filled with curiosity about its contents. Unfortunately, despite her sparkling eyes and various ocular techniques, she was unable to see through the Yin Jing. The more she struggled, the more her curiosity grew, and she incessantly urged Hao Yin. Found it! Jiutian Yin Jing. This treasure is recorded in the Kaitian history. It is called Jiutian Yin Jing. At that moment, Hao Yin waved the jade tablet in excitement, akin to claiming credit. Upon hearing this, Yao Qi immediately sprang to her feet and pressed the jade tablet against her smooth forehead. After 3 breaths, Yao Qi's eyes sparkled with understanding, though confusion lingered. Her cute brows furrowed as she remarked, Jiu Tian Yinjing. It sounds quite extraordinary, but does not mention what resides within. Could it be the intelligence cultivated postnatally? Hao Yan mused, stroking his chin. Hey, you inside, hurry and come out. I know you are in there. After probing for a long time without success, Yao Qi could no longer contain her impatience and patted the Yinjing, adopting a fierce tone. Taking a deep breath, Tong Yi resolved to accept his fate. With matters having reached this point, he knew he could delay no longer. He intended to raise his hand for a swift punch before emerging into the world. Boom! Suddenly, a surge of purple energy erupted within Zixiao Palace, and a voice of authority seemed to resonate from the depths of the universe. You two little rascals, what mischief are you up to now? Upon hearing that sound, Tong immediately wore a face akin to a bitter melon, exclaiming inwardly about the incessant interruptions to his emergence into the world. Meanwhile, Hao Tian and Yao Qi exchanged glances, both perceiving a flicker of anxiety in each other's eyes. In unison, they clasped their hands in a gesture of reverence and proclaimed, We humbly welcome the master out of seclusion. The figure of Hong Jun Dao Zhu gradually materialized within the Taojiga, clad in an ancient Taoist robe, surrounded by a swirling aura of purple energy, with eyes as profound as the abyss, seemingly encapsulating the mysteries of the entire universe. Has the master attained sanctity? Yao Qi, well acquainted with Hong Jun Dao Zhu's temperament, raised her head in astonishment and inquired. Hong Jun Dao Zhu slightly shook his head, his voice devoid of emotion, close but not quite. Upon concluding his words, he directed his gaze towards the Jiutian Yinjing on the ground, instantly recognizing its origins. Jiutian Yinjing, how did it find its way here? The timid Hao Tian replied, Master, is a gift from Yao Qi intended for you. We were unaware of the existence of any living beings within. We were merely curious while perusing ancient texts. Hong Jundao Zhu turned his attention to Yao Qi, who lowered her head and whispered, Master, sensing your imminent sanctity, I ventured into the primordial wilderness in search of a gift to be the first to congratulate you. After a lengthy search, I finally located the soul of the dead phoenix in the southern state, who guided me to the Jiutian Yinjing. To Tong Yi's astonishment, Hong Jundao Zhu exhibited remarkable patience, allowing Yao Qi to finish her explanation before pointing out the inconsistencies in her words. Shifeng? You mean Yuan Feng, correct? That old woman is relentless. She likely still harbors hopes of rebirth. He then ceased further discourse, turning his gaze back to the Jiutian Yinjing. His eyes pierced through the crystal, locking onto Tong Yi within. What the heck? Just moments ago, Tong Yi had been eavesdropping on their conversation, curious about the identity of Hong Jun. Now, he trembled under that penetrating gaze, feeling utterly exposed, as if all his secrets had been laid bare. Oh, so it is you. Hong Jun Dao Zhu's voice reverberated within the Tongjing, reminiscent of encountering an old friend. Upon hearing this, Yao Qi's eyes sparkled with curiosity, her fair face alight with intrigue. Oh, Master, do you know the being within the Yinjing? In days of yore, I had a friend named Hun Shi Mo Yuan. Hong Jun Dao Zhu nodded slightly, speaking leisurely. After his death, his essence divided into four, each corresponding to the four elemental forces of earth, wind, water, and fire. Within this Yinjing lies 1/4 of his reincarnation, representing the fire aspect of the Tong by Yuan Ho. At this juncture, he paused, casting a complex gaze towards the Yinjing, before shaking his head and remarking, Old friends gradually fade away, caught in the cycle of reincarnation. I know him, yet he does not remember me. Tong Yi felt a surge of both shock and joy, astonished that Hong Jun Dao Zhu could discern his roots so easily, yet elated that, at the very least, it appeared Hong Jun Dao Zhu bore no animosity towards him. Little monkey, do you not find it tiresome to remain encased within the stone? Now that you have awakened your spirit, it is time to emerge. At that moment, Hong Jun Dao Zhu's words interrupted Tong Yi's reverie. He felt a sense of helplessness. Was it truly his desire to remain hidden? It was they who had persistently thwarted his emergence, after all, yet he no longer hesitated, fearing another interruption. He swiftly acted, delivering a powerful punch to the Yinjing. Crack! A resounding noise erupted, as Tong Yi's seemingly feeble strike unleashed a terrifying force. The once impervious crystal cocoon, capable of withstanding the searing heat and impact of endless magma, shattered under this blow, splintering like fragile glass as countless cracks spiderwebbed across its surface before it collapsed in an explosive shatter. Ding! Successfully shattered Jiutian Yinjing. Ding! Feedback received. At that moment, a notification echoed in Tong Yi's mind. Chapter 3. Emergence as an Earth Immortal. The trials left by Hong Jun with the resounding notifications echoing in succession. Ding! Successfully shattered the Nine Heavens Flame Crystal. Ding! Acquired the feedback of the Root Bone. Nine Heavens Flame Physique. Ding! Acquired the feedback of the Divine Ability. Nine Heavens, True Fire, Ding. Acquired the feedback of the primordial spirit cultivation. Early stage Earth Immortal, a thunderous roar ensued. Before Tong Yi could fully comprehend the significance of the sounds, the Nine Heavens flame crystal shattered into countless shards, transforming into streams of radiant light that converged upon him, continuously integrating into his being. What? Tong Yi felt an intense, yet profoundly rich power surging wildly within him. Wherever this power flowed, it seemed to reshape his meridians and bones. An unprecedented sensation enveloped his entire being. It was both pleasurable and agonizing. In an instant, he lost consciousness. At the moment of his fainting, his body floated in midair, his breath steadily rising. What is happening to him? Why are the Nine Heavens' mysterious crystals rushing towards him? Yaoqi gazed at Tong Yi with wide eyes, her mouth agape. However, Hao Yan immediately grasped the situation and exclaimed, "Wow! No wonder he was a former friend of the master. This Nine Heavens' mysterious crystal not only nurtures him, but is also being absorbed by him." Only Hongjun Daozu remained tranquil, his expression unchanged. Yet this time, a subtle ripple disturbed his ancient, unwavering state of mind. Something was amiss. Very amiss. Just moments ago, he had told Tong Yi that he could emerge, intending for the little monkey to request his assistance in shattering the flame crystal to aid his birth. After all, the Nine Heavens flame crystal, a treasure of heaven and earth, possessed a hardness comparable to innate spiritual treasures beyond the reach of ordinary beings. This was also the reason why Yaoqi and Hao Yan had been unable to discern the essence within the flame crystal. In Hongjuan's estimation, this little monkey would undoubtedly be incapable of breaking free on his own. To his utter astonishment, just as he spoke, the little monkey shattered the Nine Heavens flame crystal with a single punch. Strangely, at the instant of his action, Hongjun sensed a faint aura of the true essence of the Great Tao. However, he could not discern which of the 3,000 Great Taos it belonged to. All he knew was that it was akin to the Tao of Destruction. This was not the only perplexing aspect. The current state of Tong Yi, suspended in midair, further left Hongjun astounded. He simply could not comprehend it. Why was the Nine Heavens flame crystal being absorbed by this little monkey? Did the mischievous demon ape possess an understanding of the Tao of devouring? He understood nothing of the sort. It must be noted that Hongjun had already severed his 3 corpses. His strength and insight were undoubtedly unmatched throughout the vast wilderness. He stood merely a half step away from entering the realm of the saint of the heavenly Tao, having returned to a near-peak state from the primordial era before his reincarnation. He dared to claim that none in the vast wilderness comprehended the secrets of heaven better than he. Yet, even someone as formidable as he could not fathom the events unfolding around the little monkey at that moment. After Tong Yi shattered the flame crystal, he became an enigma, shrouded in mystery, devoid of past and future. This sensation left Hongjun, the Tao ancestor, feeling as though he were gazing into chaos itself. Was this reasonable? Yet, despite the tumultuous waves within, Hongjun maintained an unyielding facade of indifference. Only a fleeting glimmer of unusual color in his eyes betrayed the unrest within. As time ticked away, the aura emanating from Tong Yi intensified. Crack! 3 days later, as if breaking free from the shackles of his mortal form, a crisp sound reverberated through Tong Yi. In that moment, he planted his feet on the ground and slowly opened his eyes. Host, Tong Yi. Cultivation, Early Earth Immortal. Bloodline, Primordial Ape, Root Bone, Nine Heavens Flame Body, Divine Ability, True Fire of the Nine Heavens. The system's attribute panel appeared before him, and Tong Yi began to emotionally comprehend his transformation. His cultivation had ascended from a mere mortal spirit to that of an Earth Immortal, a leap akin to transcending the realms of Foundation and Primordial Spirit without any transitional stages. Yet, he could distinctly sense a miniature version of himself meditating within his dantian, breathing in a manner that circulated celestial energy throughout his being. Clearly, although his status as an Earth Immortal felt like an infusion, it was indeed genuine. He possessed all that was requisite. With this realization, Tong Yi felt in overwhelming joy. He had ultimately ascended to immortality. Though merely an Earth Immortal, he surmised that this might be attributed to his only possessing a quarter of the bloodline, resulting in inherent deficiencies. Nevertheless, Tong Yi did not forget his predicament. Suppressing the euphoric excitement within, he dismissed the attribute panel and surveyed his surroundings. This glance left him drenched in sweat. Before him stood 3 figures, an elderly man and 2 children. The boy and girl, clad in Taoist robes, regarded him with wide, shimmering eyes, exuding cuteness. The elder, robed in long garments, had silver gray hair cascading loosely over his shoulders. In a modern context, they might be considered inconsequential, an old man and children. Yet, facing these 3, Tong Yi felt a profound shock, his hair standing on end as he sensed an intangible pressure enveloping him. Evidently, even though he had ascended to the realm of Earth Immortals, Any of them could easily overpower him. The joy of his newfound immortality dissipated swiftly. Before he could even pay his respects to Hong Jun, a figure lunged towards him. Wow, what an adorable little monkey. Its fur is even red. Is this a result of the Nine Heavens flame crystal? I can't believe there's actually a little monkey inside this stone, exclaimed the Yaoqi fairy as she pounced onto Tong Yi, her hands playfully tousling his fur like petting a cat, radiating sheer delight. How could Tong Yi, once a formidable man in his past life, endure such torment? Regrettably, he found himself unable to evade her playful onslaught and could only resign himself to the delightful petting. Surprisingly, it was rather pleasant. It was an experience far more enjoyable than anything he had encountered in his previous life. Master, this monkey is so adorable and possesses such charm. Why not keep it? Just as Tong Yi pondered how to respond to Hong Jun, Yaoqi gazed at the Dao ancestor with pleading eyes. Tong Yi's eyes sparkled. He believed Yaoqi was indeed a celestial being. Should he have the chance to keep her, he would gladly accept the role of Hong Jun's direct disciple. With this thought, he took a deep breath and bowed to Hong Jun, proclaiming, "The great ape monkey Tong Yi pays his respects to the Dao ancestor." "Eh? Little monkey, you can speak," Yaoqi exclaimed, her delight growing as she looked at Tong Yi. "Tong Yi, what an interesting name. Did you come up with it yourself?" Tong Yi continued to bow. Hong Jun scrutinized him, and they held their gaze for what felt like 3 breaths. Finally, Hong Jun uttered 2 peculiar words, "Strange." "Strange? What is strange about it?" the inquisitive Yaoqi asked. Hong Jun cast a playful glare at the mischievous Yaoqi before turning back to Tong Yi. "You are indeed fortunate to encounter Yaoqi and be born in the Purple Cloud Palace. Had you been born in the primordial chaos, with the nature of your kind, it would not take a day before you consumed mortal things, tainting your spiritual roots and becoming one with the masses." Upon hearing this, Tong Yi, not lacking in wisdom, recalled the tale of Journey to the West. When Sun Wukong first emerged, it caused an uproar even in the heavenly court. But once the Jade Emperor saw him consuming mortal food, he ceased to pay attention, allowing him to thrive on his own. Clearly, Hong Jun spoke the truth. Moreover, he was indirectly reminding Tong Yi to remember Yaoqi's kindness. With this realization, he immediately bowed in gratitude to Yaoqi, saying, "Thank you, Fairy Yaoqi." Observing the fiery little monkey mimicking human gestures with such cleverness and endearing clumsiness, Hong Jun felt a mix of peculiar intrigue and amusement. Ever since the war against the demonic path and the annihilation of the demonic ancestor Luo Ho in accordance with the heavenly will, nothing had shaken his composure. Yet, this little monkey, shrouded in mystery, was an anomaly. To cast such an anomaly into the primordial chaos could very well disturb the heavens and disrupt the celestial order. Perhaps it would be better to keep him? Very well, little monkey, to emerge with such wisdom and propriety, I shall grant you an opportunity. With a wave of his right hand, Hong Jun summoned a radiant glow from the bookshelf of the 9,981st level of the scripture depository. A jade tablet, imbued with a spirit of its own, floated gracefully before Tong Yi. "This is the Heart Sutra of the Purple Cloud. If you can comprehend it before I emerge from seclusion, I shall accept you as my disciple." As these words echoed in Tong Yi's ears, Hong Jun's figure had already vanished. Overjoyed, Tong Yi gazed at the jade tablet before him. Although there remains one final trial to endure, this is indeed an opportunity to become a disciple of the revered Hong Jun Daozu. It is worth noting that even the illustrious Haoyan Yaozi is not a true disciple of Hong Jun Daozu, merely a celestial child. Each of his disciples has ultimately achieved sainthood. With this thought in mind, he immediately bowed to the void, exclaiming, "Tong Yi sincerely thanks the Daozu. I shall focus intently on my comprehension." As his words faded, a dazzling light appeared before him. Chapter 4. Shattering the Purple Cloud Heart Sutra. Haoyan Yaozi was utterly astonished. "How wonderful, little monkey. The master has actually agreed to accept you as his disciple." The celestial child from Yaozi squatted down, joyfully tousling Tong Yi's fluffy fur. Tong Yi did not mind this playful affection. However, one individual was quick to express discontent. "Humph, that remains to be seen." The Haoyan celestial child pouted, adding, "The master said he would only take on a disciple who has grasped the fundamentals of the Purple Cloud Heart Sutra. How could someone so fur-clad and horned possibly comprehend it?" As Haoyan spoke, his jealousy was palpable, leaving Tong Yi both amused and bewildered. He had no intention of engaging in a dispute. Setting aside the question of physical confrontation, he noted that the child's appearance was that of a 4 or 5-year-old, and he bore a sulky expression akin to that of a preschooler. He felt no sense of menace or malice from the child, and with his 2 lifetimes' worth of experience, he certainly did not seek to quarrel. However, while Tong Yi remained unperturbed, the Yaozi child grew increasingly agitated. "Do you have a problem with this?" she exclaimed, rising to her feet, hands on her hips, and glaring at Haoyan. In an instant, Haoyan wilted under her gaze, deflating, No. Satisfied. Yaozi huffed from her nose and continued. The little monkey is clearly just like us, having sprung forth from stone. How can he be considered fur-clad and horned? As for the Purple Cloud Heart Sutra. At this point, Yaozi suddenly grasped the crux of the matter and turned to Tong Yi with reluctance. That truly is quite challenging. Tong Yi felt resigned, as if he had been sentenced to death. Setting aside the fact that he had acquired the Nine Heavens flame body after shattering the flame crystal, suggesting his innate talent should not be lacking. He reminded himself that he still had the system to rely on. Observing Tong Yi's slightly bewildered yet defiant expression, Yaozi once again crouched down, smoothing Tong Yi's fur, and patiently explained, "Little monkey, the master was already planning to emerge from seclusion. This time, the retreat likely won't last long. The Purple Cloud Heart Sutra is a technique created by the master for us, and in the vast wilderness, few can surpass it. Thus, comprehending the fundamentals before the master's return will indeed be quite difficult. The Heart Sutra has 4 stages: entry-level, minor success, major success, and perfection. Hao Yan and I have practiced for 10 yuan meetings, and we have only just reached minor success." Upon hearing Yaozi's words, Tong Yi felt a surge of joy within. He did not fear the challenge. Rather, he dreaded the prospect of it being too simple. With this thought in mind, Tong Yi raised the jade tablet towards the Yao pool and inquired, "I have but one question. If this jade tablet were to be accidentally damaged." Before he could finish his sentence, Hao Yan interjected, "The principles of the Tao should not be lightly disseminated. This jade tablet merely contains the foundational teachings. Should you truly comprehend its essence, the tablet will naturally dissipate into nothingness. However, I believe you need not worry about such matters." Hao Yan's expression remained stern as he continued, "For you will not attain such understanding." Wow, what a venomous curse. How frightening. After receiving the answer he sought, Tong Yi felt a sense of relief wash over him. Since the destruction of the jade tablet posed no consequence, he was free of any lingering concerns. Tomorrow, he could shatter it at will. With this thought, he turned to Hao Yan and beamed, "All right, I understand now. Thank you." At the sound of his gratitude, Hao Yan, who had maintained a stoic demeanor, was momentarily taken aback. Frozen in place, Tong Yi then addressed the Yao Pool, "Fairy Yao Pool, why not take me on a tour of the Zixiao Palace?" Upon hearing the title of fairy, Yao Pool's face lit up with joy. "Very well, let us go. I will show you around and teach you how to interpret the jade tablet." With that, she took Tong Yi by one hand and Hao Yan by the other, leading them out of the scripture pavilion. It wasn't until they exited the pavilion that Hao Yan regained his composure and, in a fluster, shouted at Tong Yi, who asked for your thanks. Tong Yi merely smiled in silence. The following day, within the scripture pavilion, Tong Yi sat alone, closing the door behind him to meditate. Under the guidance of Yao Pool the previous day, he had become familiar with the layout of the Zixiao Palace and, through her teachings, learned how to read the Heart Sutra of the Jade Tablet, and thus, he remained seated throughout the night. Indeed, he merely sat in silence. Too exhilarated, yet unable to comprehend the sutra, Tong Yi had initially believed that with the innate talent of the Nine Heavens flame body, he would not merely glance at it and grasp its meaning in an exaggerated manner. Yet, he certainly did not expect to be completely lost. Ultimately, he had overestimated his own comprehension. With the jade tablet pressed against his forehead all night, he was unable to glean even a fragment of understanding. The experience felt akin to grappling with advanced mathematics in his past life, extremely frustrating. In the end, Tong Yi resigned himself to the situation. After all, he possessed a system. Why strive unnecessarily? He then began to contemplate how to maximize the system's potential. First, he needed to address the limitation of the system, which allowed for shattering the tablet only once per day. This sparked a creative idea, since he had already ascended to immortality, though uncertain of the duration of his lifespan. It was undoubtedly substantial. Thus, he resolved to find time to contemplate the principles of the Tao. Isn't the system limited to once per day? I could accelerate time upon myself, 1 second equating to 1 day. The second limitation he discovered was the necessity of physical contact with the target to effectuate the shattering. Therefore, he also intended to delve into the principles of spatial Tao, contemplating that a punch, though appearing to traverse a distance, would indeed make solid contact. Such thoughts abounded, all benefiting from the eclectic and arcane novels he had perused in his past life. Certainly, all thoughts pale in comparison to the immediate task at hand. The foremost priority remains to comprehend the foundational principles of the Zixiao Heart Sutra and to become a disciple of the primordial ancestor Hongjun, which surpasses all else. After all, in this world, one must consider influence and background. Otherwise, one risks being just a mere nobody. Time has elapsed. After an entire night of anticipation, the 12-hour cooldown has finally concluded. Observing the red glow emanating from his right fist, Tong Yi acted without a moment's hesitation and struck. Crack! The jade tablet shattered at the sound. The notification chimed in timely succession. Ding! Congratulations, host, for shattering the Zhixiao Heart Sutra's introductory chapter. Ding! You have gained insight into the Zhixiao Heart Sutra's foundational principles. At this moment, Tong Yi was too absorbed to heed the notifications. He sensed an overwhelming surge of knowledge manifesting in his mind, akin to a powerful tide swiftly filling the void of his understanding regarding the Zhixiao Heart Sutra. What had eluded him for an entire night now became clear in an instant. Tong Yi found himself wholly immersed in the experience. The previously obscure and complex tenets of the scripture unfolded before him like a slowly revealing painting, vividly displayed in his mind's eye. As his comprehension of the introductory chapter deepened, his aura began to subtly transform, faint wisps of lavender light emanating from his being, merging with the ethereal essence of the Zhixiao Palace. In that moment, Tong Yi was entirely absorbed. The Heart Sutra began to operate autonomously within him, without any guidance. Buzz. When the Zhixiao Heart Sutra completed its first full cycle, Tong Yi's body trembled. Thus, he had entered the realm of the Heart Sutra. Instantaneously, an ethereal manifestation of the Zhixiao Palace appeared behind him. Its majestic halls exuded a celestial aura, resonating in harmony with the energy radiating from Tong Yi. The faint lavender glow surrounding him surged dramatically, transforming into serpentine streams of light that danced and spiraled around him. Whoosh! Boom! In an instant, the spiritual essence within the Zhixiao Palace seemed to be drawn by an immense gravitational force, converging from all directions to form a colossal vortex of energy around Tong Yi. His aura began to escalate continuously. What is happening? Why is the spiritual essence so agitated? Almost simultaneously, two figures materialized outside the scripture pavilion, Yaoqi Haoyan. The two stood in stunned silence, gazing at the vortex of spiritual essence above the pavilion, utterly dumbfounded. The doors of the pavilion were closed, obscuring their view of the interior. Yet, they were all too familiar with such phenomena, for they had also triggered this anomaly upon their initial comprehension of the Zhixiao Heart Sutra. Realizing this, they exchanged incredulous glances, both astonished by the wonder reflected in each other's eyes. There was only one conclusion. Inside the scripture pavilion, there was but a single individual. How could this be possible? Just in a single night. In one night, he comprehended the fundamentals. What remarkable insight! Hao Yan's voice trembled slightly. His previous arrogance completely vanished, replaced by the incredulity of the scene before him. Yao Tai's mouth slightly agape, her eyes filled with astonishment. She stared blankly at the swirling aura and murmured, "No wonder he completely ignored the Heart Sutra after acquiring it yesterday, and instead asked me to take him for a stroll. It turns out he had it all planned." In the next moment, as if struck by a thought, Yao Tai's eyes sparkled with anticipation as she whispered, "The first comprehension of the Zhixiao Heart Sutra will bestow a boost of enlightenment. I wonder, how far can the little monkey elevate his cultivation?" Chapter 5. Early Stage of True Immortal. Is there a disturbance in the scripture pavilion? A breakthrough to a small realm. Mid-stage, Earth Immortal. Another breakthrough. Late stage, Earth Immortal. The little monkey is astonishingly swift. Early stage, Celestial Immortal. How can this be? It has only been 10 years. The little monkey is on the verge of becoming a true immortal. What do you think, Haoyan? I am weary. I no longer wish to watch. Outside the scripture pavilion, Haoyan and Yao Tai sat at a stone table, leisurely brewing tea and snacking on seeds while gazing numbly at the swirling aura before them. Since Tong Yi comprehended the Zhixiao Heart Sutra and triggered the phenomenon, a century has passed. Over this century, their conversations have repeated countless times, all due to Tong Yi's terrifyingly rapid cultivation speed. In just 100 years, he ascended from the early stage of Earth Immortal to the pinnacle of Celestial Immortal, a mere step away from the early stage of True Immortal. This progression has left Haoyan and Yao Tai moving from initial astonishment to shock, then to daze, and now to a numbness as they munch seeds and watch the spectacle. It is essential to understand that the birth of a typical Earth Immortal requires a cycle of 1 yuan. A true Immortal requires 100 cycles. What is a yuan? To put it simply, in the world of the primordial, there exists heaven and earth. Over time, small heaven realms, often referred to as the primordial heavens, emerged around the heavens and earth. Each of these realms constitutes a small world of its own. Its timeline spans from birth to stabilization, then to extinction, and finally to rebirth, which constitutes a yuan, comprising 12 cycles. 1 yuan cycle equates to 129,600 years. Typically, a small world from birth to extinction can nurture an Earth Immortal. For Celestial Immortals, it takes 10 yuan cycles. True Immortals require 100 cycles. Mysterious Immortals, 1,000 cycles. Golden Immortals, 10,000 cycles. Haoyan and Yao Tai have already entered the realm of Tai Golden Immortal, although it only took them 10 yuan cycles. However, they have been in the presence of the Tao Ancestor all day, absorbing the aura of Zhixiao, consuming the finest elixirs. and receiving teachings from the Tao ancestor, an experience vastly different from that of solitary cultivators in the outside world. Yet, Tong Yi is different from them. He is yet to be accepted by the Tao ancestor and remains under trial. Thus, in the eyes of Hao Yin and Yao Tai, all of Tong Yi's achievements are solely reliant on his own efforts. From the moment of birth, he was a terrestrial immortal, having already endured the cycles of a small world. Now, merely a century has passed. He has ascended from a terrestrial immortal to the pinnacle of a heavenly immortal. This achievement fills Hao Yin and Yaoqi with a sense of shame, especially Hao Yin. 100 years ago, his countenance was brimming with pride, yet now it is marked by defeat. Yaoqi, however, remains relatively unfazed. After an initial numbness, the joy in her heart surpasses her astonishment. The little monkey is the one she brought to Zixiao Palace. The faster he cultivates, the greater her sense of accomplishment. This entry-level Heart Sutra only records up to the peak of true immortality. Could it be that before the master even emerges from seclusion, the little monkey has already perfected the entry-level teachings? With her chin resting on her hands, Yaoqi gazes expectantly at the swirling vortex of spiritual energy, murmuring softly. Hao Yin, upon hearing her words, offers no response, instead draining the last of his phoenix Dansong tea in one gulp. At that moment, a powerful disturbance suddenly emanates from the scripture repository. The once steady vortex of spiritual energy, which had persisted for a century, begins to whirl wildly, causing the surrounding space to subtly warp. Is he about to break through? Yaoqi abruptly rises, her eyes alight with excitement. Unimaginable. Hao Yin remains seated, muttering to himself as he observes. The figure of Tong Yi gradually becomes discernible within the vortex. He is radiating a brilliant golden light, and a formidable aura permeates the air, breaking through the surrounding vortex of spiritual energy and spreading in all directions. In an instant, all peculiar phenomena vanish. The long-closed doors of the scripture repository swing open abruptly. Tong Yi, now exuding the aura of a true immortal, steps forth. The initial stage of true immortality. A century. Little monkey, you are truly remarkable. Yaoqi exclaims, rushing forward. She naturally places her hands on Tong Yi's head, relishing the moment she has long missed. Little monkey, you've grown taller. Now you are as tall as I am. This is splendid. I no longer need to bend down to pat you. Upon hearing this, Tong Yi can only smile wryly. Yaoqi still appears to be merely 5 or 6 years old. How tall could she possibly be? He is uncertain why his form remains unchanged, even having attained true immortality, still resembling a monkey. He wonders when he might transform into human form, like Hao Yin and Yaoqi. Just then, Hao Yin Xiantong approaches. He first surveys Tong Yi slowly, and then, seemingly at a loss for words, awkwardly inquires. You have become a true immortal, yet why have you not transformed? What is the benefit of transformation? Little monkey, listen to me, do not transform. Yaoqi interjects. Tong Yi smiles at her, and then turns to Hao Yin Xiantong, seeking guidance. If one attains true immortality, is transformation customary? To his surprise, Hao Yin Xiantong's demeanor towards him is drastically different from a century prior. Faced with Tong Yi's courtesy, a flicker of panic crosses Hao Yin's round face. He avoids eye contact with Tong Yi and stammers. The master has said that human form is the most harmonious with the spiritual energies of heaven and earth. Thus, every being that is not innately humanoid, upon breaking through from earth immortal to heaven immortal, must endure the tribulation of transformation bestowed by the heavenly Tao. Only by successfully navigating this trial can one attain a new form. Upon hearing the patient exposition from Hao Yin, Tong Yi felt an immediate sense of foreboding. While others transformed into their celestial forms, he himself felt no inclination towards undergoing such tribulation during his breakthrough to heaven immortal. Even at the moment of his ascension to true immortal, he sensed nothing of the sort. Could it be that he would remain in his monkey form indefinitely? Was the theory of evolution indeed true? After all, both monkeys and humans belong to the primate order, hence perhaps no transformation was necessary. Stop pondering, little monkey. You're doing just fine as you are. It brings me joy to see you this way. There is no need for transformation, Yao Tai reassured, gently brushing Tong Yi's brow. Yet, her seriousness lasted but 3 seconds before she leaned in closer to Tong Yi and whispered, since the master will remain in seclusion for some time, shall we go play in the primordial wilderness? Foolishness. Yao Tai, not again. Before Tong Yi could respond, Hao Yin interjected sternly. This time, however, his reprimand was not aimed at Yao Tai's playful spirit, but rather directed at Tong Yi. The master has stated that after a rapid breakthrough in cultivation, one must solidify their foundation. Otherwise, instability may ensue, leading to tumultuous states of mind. While ordinary cultivators spend centuries reaching true immortal, Tong Yi has achieved this in merely 100 years. And you wish to take him out to play just after his emergence? You are jeopardizing his progress. Upon hearing Hao Yin's words, Yao Tai was taken aback, her cheerful demeanor evaporating in an instant. She gazed at Tong Yi, her round, expressive eyes filled with worry. I didn't mean to. I understand, Tong Yi interjected, placing his hand gently on the back of Yao Tai's. You're simply too bored. Fear not. Once I have solidified my cultivation, I shall accompany you to the primordial wilderness. Ding. Detection of Yao Tai, the celestial maiden. Would you like to crush? Just as Tong Yi finished speaking, a notification echoed in his mind. His lips quivered slightly as he inwardly cursed. What a devilish system. How could you even consider such a thing for such a charming maiden? Simultaneously, he glanced at his right hand, understanding the system's loneliness after 100 years without a crush. All right, focus on your cultivation. Noting Tong Yi's momentary distraction, Yao Tai assumed his foundation was indeed unstable and promptly urged him back towards the scripture pavilion. I shall not disturb you any longer. Solidify your practice and come find me to play. With that, she firmly shut the door behind her. Turning to Hao Yin, her youthful face was marked by a frown. Why did you have to shout so loudly? I am ignoring you now. After expressing her displeasure at Hao Yin, Yao Tai departed. Yao Tai, I was wrong. Please don't be upset. Hao Yin hurriedly pursued her. Inside the scripture pavilion, Tong Yi observed the door that had barely opened before shutting again, listening to the retreating footsteps of Yao Tai and Hao Yin. With a sense of resignation, he returned to his mat, a sigh escaping him. Is this what cultivation is? A century passes in the blink of an eye. If it were a past life, it would encompass the entirety of one's existence. He no longer pondered further and began to meditate with closed eyes. Hao Yin was not mistaken. A towering edifice rises from the ground, and a solid foundation is of paramount importance. Time, like a fleeting rabbit, swiftly elapses. For a millennium, Tong Yi had remained in meditation, ceaselessly cultivating his practice. Unlike his previous endeavors, this time he was entirely focused on consolidating his realm. After 1,000 years, his cultivation still lingered at the initial stage of true immortality. At this moment, Tong Yi opened his eyes, and the dim light of the scripture pavilion flickered momentarily before vanishing. Well, I should have firmly established my foundation by now. It's time to seek out that girl from the Yao pool. She must be waiting impatiently. He exhaled a heavy breath and prepared to rise. Suddenly, an eerie and chilling voice erupted from behind him. Hee, young friend, do you aspire to become a saint? The voice felt like countless icy fingers slowly crawling up his spine. Upon hearing it, Tong Yi's body stiffened, and his hair stood on end. For 1,000 years, he had been the sole occupant of the scripture pavilion. Who could this voice belong to? Chapter 6. The remnant soul of the ancestor Yang Mei seeks to possess me? In that instant, Tong Yi's hair bristled, and he instinctively leapt into the air. When he turned to look, a shiver ran down his spine. Above the meditation mat he had occupied for a millennium, a towering willow tree stood, 2 meters high, its roots seemingly anchored in the void. Its verdant leaves swayed as if stirred by an unseen breeze, forming a human visage. Clearly, it was this very willow that had spoken moments ago. As strange as this phenomenon was, what astonished Tong Yi the most was the oppressive aura emanating from the willow tree, a presence that was only slightly inferior to Hong Jun. It instilled within him a sense of caution, preventing any rash actions. What manner of being are you? Tong Yi inquired warily. His right hand poised to strike while his left remained behind his back, ready to unleash the 9 heavens' true fire should the need arise. What does he mean? The willow's leaves rustled, and the face formed by the foliage seemed to mockingly inquire. Tong Yi's lips twitched. He had only exclaimed in his mother tongue due to the fright. Yet, he refrained from revealing its true meaning and instead explained, "It means you startled me, esteemed elder. I possess a timid heart." "Oh, is that so? Yet, the meaning is of little consequence now." The willow's leaves swayed, and it finally revealed its identity. "Little one, do not be alarmed. You ought to know me. I am the ancestor Yang Mei." Upon hearing this, Tong Yi was struck with astonishment. He was well aware of the name Yang Mei, whose status was equivalent to that of the Tao ancestor Hong Jun. It was said that during the primordial era, he was one of the 3,000 chaos demon gods, the one who wielded the path of spatial principles. Later, he was slain by the great Pangu and, after his death, reincarnated in the Hong Huang, thus becoming Yang Mei. However, it later became unclear how it vanished. How could it suddenly reappear here? It seemed as though it had pierced through Tong Yi's thoughts. Are you curious why I have manifested? It is solely because I seek the method of severing the 3 corpses. That rightfully belongs to me. The willow tree abruptly swayed violently, and the visage formed by its leaves revealed a countenance of resentment, accompanied by a shrill voice. That old fool Hong Jun deceived me into joining him to slay Luo Hu. He promised that once it was accomplished, we would share in the merits of the Tao. And what was the outcome? He ultimately turned against us, striking at the 3 of us. He deserves to perish. Tong Yi was utterly astonished. His surprise did not stem from the veracity of the words spoken. After all, who could ascertain their truth? Just because it claimed to be Yang Mei, does that make it so? I might as well be you one. Tong Yi's astonishment arose from the violent swaying, during which he distinctly felt the entire tremble. The fluctuations in space were exceedingly apparent. Logically, such disturbances should have alerted the outside realm of Haotian Yaoqi, prompting their appearance. Yet, there was none. Could it be that Haotian Yaoqi had become distracted in play? Or had it already encountered misfortune? Contemplating this, Tong Yi felt an unsettling chill. The former scenario would be manageable, but if the latter were true, Haotian Yaoqi's strength far surpassed his own. If they could be silently dealt with without disturbing Hong Jun, what fate awaited him? Even with the system, he dared not be careless. After all, the other party was exceedingly enigmatic. Fortunately, having lived 2 lives, Tong Yi's intellect had transcended that of ordinary individuals. He desperately sought to maintain his composure, his mind racing as he engaged in verbal sparring with the entity before him. His face reflected shock and indignation, akin to a disillusioned youth filled with righteous anger. As he clenched his fist and declared, "Is such madness truly possible? The conflict between the Tao and the demons is archaic, and I, as a junior, know very little. How did you survive, esteemed elder? And what of the other 2 elders? Where might they be? Surely, there cannot be others still alive? A single blow can shatter a day. If there are indeed others, my predicament becomes even more perilous." Seemingly satisfied with Tong Yi's youthful outrage, the Willow's voice lost its harshness. "They are dead. The realms of Yin and Yang, the universe itself, have perished. My physical form has been shattered. Had I not mastered the great Tao of space, my lingering soul would have long since perished, swallowed by the chaotic rifts of time and space. Now, as Hong Jun enters the most critical phase of his seclusion, I have only just emerged to seek the method of severing the 3 corpses. This Jiangjinge, in which you reside, likely harbors the very method I seek." Tong Yi's heart tightened, but he also gleaned a crucial piece of information from this exchange. The entity was a residual soul, devoid of a physical body. No wonder it appeared in such a ghastly form, lacking a human semblance. As for its assertion that the method of severing the 3 corpses might be concealed within this Tong Yi scoffed at the notion. This entity is the Hong Jun saintly method. How could it possibly be recorded? To whom would it be passed? None of the future saints achieved their status through the method of slaying the 3 corpses. Were it not for his exposure to the tales of the primordial era, he might have been deceived by the ghostly words of this willow tree. Something is amiss. The utterance from the other party undoubtedly conceals a conspiracy. Since this is your method, it is entirely reasonable for you to seek it. However, I, Tong Yi, tread cautiously, feigning trepidation, and responded, "I have only recently arrived at the Purple Cloud Palace and am unfamiliar with everything here. Just look at these towering shelves. They seem endless. Perhaps I should venture out to assist you in finding other celestial youths who might know the whereabouts of the method for slaying the 3 corpses." The willow tree, transformed from the ancient ancestor, emitted a low, rumbling laugh. "Are you referring to those 2 little ones, Haotian and Yaoqi? Do not worry. This old ancestor has enveloped the entire scripture pavilion with spatial laws. For a millennium, I have been observing you. Your comprehension far surpasses theirs." Upon hearing this, Tong Yi felt a slight relief. Haotian and Yaoqi were unharmed. Though their time together was brief, he had grown quite fond of these 2 youngsters. Despite their formidable powers, their hearts remained pure. It would be a grave loss if they were to perish so easily. The bad news, however, was that his own situation had become even more precarious. The other party's confinement suggested a sinister intention towards him. What a predicament! What could this ancient being possibly see in him? His utterly ordinary exterior? Tong Yi's mind raced to devise a strategy. "Senior, upon your arrival, you inquired whether I desired to achieve sainthood. What does that imply?" Upon hearing Tong Yi's words, the willow tree swayed slightly, and the remnant soul of Yang Mei rejoiced within. Finally, after such lengthy discourse, he had successfully baited this young man's greed and desires. Most of what he had just articulated was truth. His sole purpose was to make this lad believe in the extraordinary strength he once possessed, thereby enticing him to seek his assistance in attaining sainthood. Sainthood, an aspiration coveted by all beings in the primordial realm, a lifelong pursuit. He was confident the other would not take this lightly. After such a protracted conversation, Yang Mei felt that this young man's character had already surpassed many others. Yet, it mattered little. Yang Mei delighted in the presence of spirited youth. The greater the talent, the more fulfillment he derived. With this thought, he steadied his emotional turmoil and spoke to Tong Yi in a languid tone. "I possess a secret technique that can uncover the method for slaying the 3 corpses. However, my physical form has dissipated, and I can only rely on my remnant soul to execute this technique. Therefore, should you agree to lend your corporeal body to this old ancestor for one execution of the secret art, I shall swear an oath to the heavenly Tao to share the method of achieving sainthood with you." Upon hearing the words of the willow tree, Tong Yi suddenly comprehended the gravity of the situation. Goodness, he realized the truth. This ancient being sought to usurp his body. Chapter 7. Li Dai Tao Jiang raised his eyebrows as the system issued a general command, leaving Tong Yi astonished. The opponent's tactics felt eerily familiar. What nonsense about using one's own body to perform secret techniques. Wasn't this precisely the legendary possession? To have such a melodramatic plot unfold in his own life was absurd. Was he being deceived into compliance only to be possessed? Yet, upon this realization, Tong Yi felt a sense of relief. Firstly, the adversary had not launched an immediate attack, indicating a lack of confidence or perhaps other reservations, especially considering they were within the confines of the Zixiao Palace. Secondly, if the opponent resorted to some unknown trick, his predicament would undoubtedly be dire. However, possession? In the countless novels of his past life, had there ever been a successful male protagonist who was overtaken by an elder? Not a single one. With a system at his disposal, it would be ludicrous to fear possession. Very well, attempt to take over my body. As you approach, I shall show you the meaning of a life-threatening right fist. Tong Yi mused internally, though his visage betrayed a blend of hesitation, yearning, and greed. The hesitation and yearning reflected his true self, while the greed was his inherent nature. It was all too genuine. Even the venerable Yang Mei did not detect any anomaly. After a brief moment, Tong Yi gritted his teeth, feigning determination as he declared, "All right, but you must first swear an oath." "You cautious little rascal." Yang Mei's remnant soul responded, more straightforward than Tong Yi, his voice imbued with sincerity as he proclaimed, "I hereby swear by the name of Yang Mei's remnant soul to the heavens. Should I harbor even a fraction of ill intent while borrowing your body to perform secret techniques, I shall be punished by the rules of heaven and earth, and my soul shall dissipate into nothingness." As his words echoed, a spectral blue light gradually materialized, twisting and swirling in midair before ultimately vanishing into the void, marking the oath's validity. Tong Yi contemplated silently. Although the oath appeared solemn, how much weight could it truly carry if the other party made it so casually? It was merely a formality. Nevertheless, he managed to display a hint of relief on his face and gently said, "Predecessor, please proceed." With that, he stepped forward, arms outstretched. "There's no need for tension. I shall be swift." The willow swayed, its leaves forming an aged visage that bore a kindly smile, seemingly comforting Tong Yi. Simultaneously, a branch suddenly elongated, reaching towards him. On the surface, Tong Yi remained composed, but within, he felt like an impending volcano, his outstretched hands trembling slightly. 10 feet, 6 feet, 3 feet. The branch continued its advance until it was barely an inch from Tong Yi's face. Shatter. Tong Yi's gaze sharpened, fierce as an eagle, as he bellowed. With a resounding smack, his right fist collided forcefully with the branch. In that instant, a burst of crimson light erupted, a terrifying aura of destruction cascading over the branch. In the next moment, the verdant branches of the willow tree were shattered inch by inch, swiftly enveloping the entire trunk. A celestial chime resonated in Tong Yi's mind. Ding. "Congratulations, host. You have successfully shattered the remnants of the innate willow." Ding. "You have acquired the feedback ability of spatial leap." However, the moment he heard the notification, the fleeting joy on Tong Yi's face vanished, replaced by astonishment. Damn it. It's not the remnant soul, but a remnant body. Tong Yi cursed vehemently, his complexion turning as pale as snow, a wave of intense unease surging within him. In the next instant, a chilling, bone-piercing aura surged through him like a relentless tide, emanating from his brow. He felt as though countless sharp needles were piercing into his skull, the excruciating pain nearly obliterating his ability to think. "Ha! Impudent wretch. You have shattered the remnants of your ancestor." A voice filled with mockery echoed in his mind. "I have observed you for a millennium and have long since detected the peculiar destructive aura of your right fist. Today, I shall borrow your right fist to erase my final karmic ties. You are so generous. I shall also borrow your flesh and your fortune to aid my rebirth." Tong Yi was engulfed by a torrent of laughter that dazzled his eyes and rendered his ears deaf. Anger and fear gripped him. Damn that Yang Mei. He had indeed been deceived. Despite his utmost vigilance, he had still fallen into a trap. The willow tree was not merely a remnant soul. The remnant soul had already infiltrated the depths of his brow, without him realizing it. Tong Yi was filled with dread. He desperately summoned his celestial energy in an attempt to expel the invading force. Yet, that power acted like a venom, insidiously eroding his celestial energy as it advanced toward his sea of consciousness. "You little true immortal, had I not been injured, I could crush you with a mere finger. Do you think you can stop me? How naive. Do not resist, as I have just stated. Soon you and I shall become one." The derisive voice of the remnant soul of Yang Mei echoed in Tong Yi's mind. Determined, Tong Yi bit down on his lip to regain his composure. While enduring the searing pain radiating from his head, he frantically devised a countermeasure. Unfortunately, The system could only be used once a day, and the opportunity could not be saved. Otherwise, he would have shattered his own skull by now. Regret coursed through him like wildfire. Finally, Tong Yi comprehended that he had not been cautious enough. He had foolishly believed that possessing the system would allow him to devour tigers and swallow wolves, only to find himself ensnared in a pit. That wretched Yang Mei. How cunning, to have observed him for a millennium and be aware of the secret of his right fist. With no solutions forthcoming, Tong Yi could only place his hope in the system. He fervently cried out in his heart, "System, my chance for today has been used up. Can you lend me just one more time?" Yet, the system seemed to have fallen into a deep slumber. No matter how he screamed in his mind, there was not a hint of response, and thus, he found himself in a dire predicament. Tong Yi's heart, once filled with anxiety, succumbed to despair. His body trembled uncontrollably, his vision blurred, and he began to lose consciousness amidst desolation. Just as he was on the brink of oblivion, a commanding voice resonated through the depths of his consciousness. "Warning! Warning! Warning! Virus invasion detected. System dual protection general order activated. Commencing automatic virus eradication." Haha, the ancient ancestor has arrived. Cursed Hongjun, once I seize this body, I shall use this lad's right fist to obliterate you. At that moment, Yang Mei's fragmented soul, having just breached the barriers of Tong Yi's consciousness, was filled with exuberance. In truth, most of the words he had previously spoken to Tong Yi were grounded in reality, save for concealing the fact of his own physical decay. The so-called techniques to sever the three corpses and seek secret arts were mere fabrications to deceive the unwary. The complexity of his scheme stemmed from a straightforward desire. He had always coveted Tong Yi. This obsession began on the day Tong Yi shattered the jade tablet, when he witnessed the entire process of the system's annihilation, leaving him utterly astounded. Although he was unaware of the true nature of the aura emanating from Tong Yi's right hand, he was certain that obtaining it would allow him to reclaim his former glory, perhaps even surpass it. Thus, he concealed himself within the scripture pavilion, clandestinely observing Tong Yi for a millennium while devising ways to usurp his body. Today, he had finally succeeded. All that remained was to locate the remnants of Tong Yi's final soul within this sea of consciousness and thoroughly devour it, thereby acquiring everything belonging to Tong Yi. Haha, what is this other presence? No, this is disastrous. Just as Yang Mei's fragmented soul reveled in triumph, it was abruptly confronted by an onslaught of crimson light rushing towards it. Reacting swiftly, he attempted to retreat, only to discover that the barrier behind him had inexplicably reformed. In that fleeting moment of shock, he was engulfed by the red light. Instantly, anguished cries erupted. First came the shouts of outrage and curses. "What is this? Get away. Don't bite me. Cursed Tong Yi. You've deceived me." Then followed desperate pleas. "Tong Yi, young friend, spare the ancestor. The ancestor possesses the inheritance of spatial Tao. I can offer it to you." Finally, weakness set in. "I detest the treachery of such a youth." And then, silence fell. Regrettably, the external Tong Yi had already succumbed to unconsciousness, entirely oblivious to these events. Chapter 8. Introduction to Spatial Laws. Astonishment at the Haotian Yaoqi hiss. "My head truly aches terribly." Tong Yi awakened languidly, feeling as though a chainsaw were unleashed within his skull. Yet, he quickly regained his composure and found himself in a state of astonishment. "How is it that I am unscathed? Goodness, how have my cultivation levels surged once again? Where is Yang Mei?" Tong Yi was left utterly dumbfounded. He initially believed that this time he was truly finished. To his astonishment, upon awakening, his cultivation had surged from the initial stage of true immortal, which he had solidified for a millennium, to the pinnacle of mystic immortal. Moreover, he was on the verge of breaking into golden immortal. Not only that, he sensed the influx of numerous memories that did not belong to him within his mind. After a fragrant stick of incense had burned, Tong Yi, seated back on his mat, felt the throbbing pain in his head gradually dissipate. He finally gleaned what had transpired from the system. "Damn it, system, you nearly scared me to death. You could have mentioned the double protection," he exclaimed. "So, does this mean I no longer need to fear the residual souls of powerful beings seizing my body?" Tong Yi sighed in relief. Though he spoke lightly of it, he etched this matter deeply into his heart. The means of the mighty in the vast wilderness were treacherous and their thoughts intricate. He would need to remain cautious in the future. "System, open the attribute panel and review my gains this time." Host, Tong Yi. Cultivation, Pinnacle of Mystic Immortal. Technique. Introductory Purple Cloud Heart Sutra. Bloodline. Arm Extending Ape. Root Bone. 9 Heavens Flame Body. Laws. Introductory Spatial Laws. Divine Powers. 9 Heavens True Fire. Spatial Jump. Treasure. Unknown Spatial Teleportation Stone. Gazing at the attribute panel that was starkly different from the last, Tong Yi did not let it inflate his ego. His pinnacle of mystic immortal cultivation was due to the remnants of the Yang Mei soul being shattered by the system within his sea of consciousness. After his sea of consciousness absorbed the fragments of the residual soul, it strengthened itself, directly elevating Tong Yi's cultivation by 7 minor realms. From the knowledge gleaned from the Purple Cloud Heart Sutra, the great realms of cultivation are as follows: Earth Immortal, Heavenly Immortal, True Immortal, Mystic Immortal, Golden Immortal, and Tai Golden Immortal, culminating in the Great Luo Golden Immortal and the Primordial Golden Immortal, Quasi-Saint, and the Primordial Great Luo Golden Immortal, Saint. Each great realm is further divided into 4 minor stages: early, middle, late, and pinnacle. Originally, he was at the early stage of True Immortal, with a lifespan of 1,000 Yuan Hua. Within those 1,000 Yuan Hua, he needed to break through 4 minor realms to ascend to Mystic Immortal. Now, having absorbed the remnants of the Yang Mei soul, he had indeed taken a shortcut, directly elevating to the pinnacle of Mystic Immortal. With a lifespan of 10,000 Yuan Hua, this meant he had 10,000 Yuan Hua to traverse this minor realm and step into Golden Immortal, where he would exist alongside the heavens for eternity. However, to be honest, he did not wish to experience the seizing of his body by the remnants of the Yang Mei soul again. Beyond the elevation of his cultivation, he had 3 additional gains. The first was the divine power of spatial jump. To be deemed a divine power is to eclipse mere spells, and spatial jump was no exception. Once invoked, it could shatter spatial barriers, leaping across a distance of 100,000 miles. This distance was calculated based on his current cultivation and comprehension of spatial laws. The second gain was the introductory comprehension of spatial laws. The comprehension and cultivation of the 3,000 great laws are somewhat akin to the minor realms, also divided into 4 stages: beginnings, minor achievements, great accomplishments, and ultimate fulfillment. This encapsulates the journey succinctly. The most profound revelation brought to Tong Yi by the understanding of the principles of space is that it opened a door to a new world, one he had previously contemplated. A host who fails to leverage the system is hardly a good host. While the system may appear to impose numerous constraints, it is precisely these limitations that unveil its true potential. The principles of space have ushered him into a realm of possibilities. Though he is merely at the threshold of comprehension, he already possesses the capability to unleash a punch that shortens the distance to his target by 1,000 miles. Should he continue to delve deeper into these principles, attaining a minor achievement, he would establish his own domain of space. At that juncture, he would need not lift a finger. Merely stepping into his territory would spell destruction for his adversaries. With this thought solidified in his mind, Tong Yi resolved to seek guidance from Hong Jun, particularly concerning the principles of space and time. Additionally, there was a final boon. After the annihilation of Yang Mei's residual spirit, a mysterious space teleportation stone fell into his possession. Where might this artifact transport him? Could it be to Yang Mei's lair? As Tong Yi raised his hand, a dark stone materialized within it, inscribed with blue space runes, emanating an aura of both the path of arrays and the grand principles of space. With Yang Mei's demise, this object became a possession without a master. Tong Yi sensed that by merely channeling his magical energy, he could instantly be transported to an unknown location. However, having recently endured a calamity, he was loath to take such a risk, fearing it might be another trap. After all, he still harbored an unsettling feeling about the entire ordeal, not due to an excessive bounty, but rather a meager one. Despite Yang Mei being but a remnant of a soul, even a dead camel is larger than a horse. After its destruction, he had acquired merely a divine ability, a peak realm of the Xianxian, and an introductory understanding of the principles of space. Was this truly acceptable? At the very least, he ought to have obtained a Tai Golden Immortal status or a minor mastery of the principles. Thus, he worried that the location he could be transported to might still harbor Yang Mei. After all, who decrees that a residual spirit must exist in singularity? Until he possesses absolute certainty, Tong Yi is reluctant to take such a gamble. There remains another point of contention. He sensed something amiss in this place. After all, this was the Zixiao Palace. Even though Hong Jun had yet to attain sainthood, he was nearly there. Was it truly as simple as Yang Mei claimed? To enter at will? What level had his understanding of the principles of space reached? Or was it a deliberate test set by Hong Jun himself? Rising to his feet, Tong Yi stretched lazily, then performed a series of exercises from the 8th set of the National Primary and Secondary School Radio Gymnastics. With a heavy exhalation, he expelled the muddled thoughts that had cluttered his mind. He felt that this experience had significantly broadened the questions swirling in his head. While they may be convoluted, such complexity was not necessarily detrimental. In a world as merciless as the primordial era, it was essential to navigate with caution. It has only been over a millennium. One wonders if Master has emerged from seclusion. As Tong Yi contemplated this, he stepped forward, causing the space before him to warp abruptly. In the blink of an eye, He found himself hovering above the grand hall of the Zixiao Palace, observing the palace, shielded by the protective array. Tong Yi's figure flickered as he swiftly surveyed the array both inside and outside the palace. Yet, he still found no openings for Yang Mei to enter. Suddenly, two figures appeared beside Tong Yi, Yao Qi and Hao Tian, the two celestial youths. Despite Tong Yi having grasped the rudiments of spatial laws, the sounds he generated could not escape the notice of Yao Qi and Hao Tian, who had already attained the status of Tai Golden Immortals. Little monkey. Have you solidified your cultivation? Upon seeing Tong Yi, Yao Qi's face lit up with joy, her eyes sparkling. However, in the next moment, she froze mid-air, staring at Tong Yi in utter disbelief. Behind her, Hao Tian, equally struck by astonishment, exclaimed, "Impossible. How have you reached the pinnacle of Xianxian?" It was no wonder Yao Qi and Hao Tian were so utterly astonished. A millennium ago, Tong Yi had taken a mere century to ascend to true immortal status, which was already remarkable considering he had just begun to comprehend the Zixiao Heart Sutra. With the extraordinary phenomena of Zixiao Palace and the infusion of Zixiao spiritual energy. Although astonishing, it was somewhat understandable after consuming a few golden pills to steady himself. But now, it had only been a millennium. He had jumped from the early stages of true immortal to the pinnacle of Xianxian. 7 entire minor realms in just a millennium. Even with an incessant diet of golden pills, such progress seemed unfathomable, especially since the sutra repository contained only incomprehensible scriptures and no other resources. In that instant, Yao Qi and Hao Tian exchanged bewildered glances, utterly speechless and profoundly impacted. The comparison was disheartening. Reflecting back to their own experiences, they had taken an entire Yuan Hui to reach Xianxian status. Their master had even praised their exceptional talents, declaring they had surpassed many beings of the primordial era, progressing 1,000 times faster than ordinary cultivators. Yet now, in contrast to Tong Yi, they felt utterly insignificant. Most importantly, weren't you supposed to solidify your cultivation? How could you be so deceitful? Hao Tian, in a fit of urgency, shouted these words, his voice breaking. Indeed, you were supposed to solidify your cultivation. How is it that only a millennium has passed, and instead of consolidating, you've made a breakthrough? Yao Qi followed up with her inquiry. Gazing at Tong Yi with her large, watery eyes, her brows slightly furrowed and her small face stern, exuding an adorable charm. Seeing the two celestial youths, Tong Yi couldn't help but smile. Fortunately, that old rascal Yang Mei had not lied about this. Yao Qi and Hao Tian were indeed safe. However, his smile only intensified the vexation of Hao Tian and Yao Qi still smiling. Who are you? You cannot be the little monkey. The pace of cultivation is exceedingly frustrating. Yao Qi soared to Tong Yi's side, her anger palpable as she reached out to ruffle his hair. It was merely an unexpected moment of enlightenment, hence the rapid progress. However, I assure you, this truly shall be the last time such absurdity occurs. In the face of Yao Qi's playful torment, Tong Yi smiled without resentment. In his previous life, he bathed daily. Having arrived in the primordial era for over a millennium without washing his hair, he found it quite pleasant to have Yao Qi scratch his head. As for the excuse of enlightenment, he felt it was unavoidable. Once Hongjun emerged from seclusion, he would undoubtedly report the matter of Yang Mei. After all, he did not believe this could remain concealed from a sage. Yet, with Hao Yan and Yao Qi, a kind-hearted falsehood would suffice. Knowing too much is not always beneficial. Upon hearing this, Yao Qi fell silent, her hand applying more pressure as several strands of hair were left in her grasp. She blinked, noticing Tong Yi remained oblivious, and secretly tucked the hair away in her sleeve. Enlightenment. No wonder. Only such a moment could account for such swift cultivation. However, your rate of progress would certainly astonish the Lord. At that moment, Hao Tian slowly approached, lacking the same stress relief method and wearing an expression of bewilderment. Has the Dao ancestor not yet emerged from seclusion? Tong Yi, wishing to shift the focus away from himself, quickly redirected the conversation. It has only been a millennium. The longest retreat by the Lord lasted over 10,000 eons. You should amend your address. When the Lord returns, you shall be his sole disciple, Hao Tian remarked wistfully. It was better not to mention this. The comparison was disheartening. Yet, he could not interact with Tong Yi as Yao Qi did and could only gaze at him with a forlorn expression. Perhaps we should take a stroll through the primordial? Tong Yi, feeling uncomfortable under the scrutiny, hastily suggested. Absolutely. Yao Qi immediately raised her hand in agreement. But the next moment, she recalled the reprimand from a millennium ago by Hao Yan and promptly lowered her hand. Casting a timid glance at him before saying to Tong Yi, I meant to say you don't need that. To consolidate your cultivation? No need. Those who achieve enlightenment do not require consolidation of their skills, Tong Yi replied earnestly. As for whether this was true, who knows? In any case, he was reluctant to return to sitting. His posterior was already numb. Upon hearing this, Yao Qi's eyes sparkled with admiration. Hao Yan's expression turned skeptical, but it mattered little. He had never experienced enlightenment himself. Then let us go? We shall explore the primordial together. You were born in Zixiao Palace and surely have no idea how delightful the primordial is. I will show you, Yaoqi exclaimed with excitement. However, Hao Yan appeared despondent. You two go ahead. I shall return to my cultivation. With that, he turned and flew downward. Tongyi sighed in exasperation. This young lad was rather disheartened. It seemed he would need to learn a method to conceal his cultivation, for continuously discouraging young Hao Yan was not a favorable situation. What? Without rapid advancement in cultivation, one would no longer be disheartened? How is it possible? It is inconceivable to slow down the pace of breakthrough. Both the system and Hong Jun have stated this. He possesses a quarter of the bloodline of the mischievous Monkey King. This implies that in order to shatter his constraints and reclaim his former glory, he must unite the other 3 bloodlines. However, as the spirit-sensitive stone monkey, Sun Wukong will inevitably be ensnared. Therefore, he must diligently continue his cultivation. While he may not surpass Hong Jun, he must at least rank just below him. It is of no concern. He often finds himself in such a situation. My aptitude exceeds his, and I often engage in leisure, yet my cultivation remains superior. Hence, he presumed that this time you would follow behind him. Yaoqi, standing nearby, explained. Her brows slightly raised in amusement. Who would have thought? Tongyi nodded slightly, understanding why Hao Yan had suffered such a severe setback. He decided not to dwell on the matter any further and turned his gaze toward the boundless, thick mist of chaos. He inquired of Yaoqi, how do we traverse to the primordial chaos? Although he had reached the pinnacle of the profound immortal realm, merely a step away from attaining eternal life, he dared not recklessly step into the chaos. This realm demands caution, even from the great Luo Jingxian. A moment's carelessness could lead to irrevocable disaster. Before Yaoqi could respond, he pressed on. By the way, what is your cultivation level? How did you bring me here before? Upon hearing this, Yaoqi raised her delicate face, hands clasped behind her back, her eyes glimmering with a hint of pride. I am merely a fraction short of the 3 flowers gathering at the crown. That level corresponds to the great Luo Jingxian. This revelation indicated that Yaoqi now stood at the pinnacle of the Tai Jingxian realm, the final step of the 5 Qi Chaoyuan. Tongyi's eyes sparkled with newfound admiration for Yaoqi. Though it may be said that Tai will soon abound, and great Luo will be commonplace, one must not forget that Hong Jun, the Tao ancestor, has yet to attain sainthood or impart teachings. The myriad beings of the primordial chaos have not yet regained their vitality after the catastrophe of the Dragon and Han era. Thus, the significance of Yaoqi's status as a pinnacle Tai Jingxian is indeed profound. No wonder the stern little lad, Hao Yan, feels secure in allowing Yaoqi to wander the primordial. Hee. Impressive, isn't it? Oh, please don't look at me with such eyes. I can hardly contain my laughter. Faced with Tongyi's exaggerated gaze of admiration, Yaoqi assumed a facade of nonchalance, which crumbled within mere seconds. After a shy laugh, she turned, and in an instant, her ancient Taoist robe transformed into a magnificent, dreamlike skirt of vibrant hues. This skirt appeared almost alive, constantly radiating dazzling, multicolored light. Adorning her petite form, it seemed a match made in heaven, enhancing her ethereal charm with an added touch of playfulness, rendering her exceedingly adorable. Isn't it beautiful, little monkey? This ensemble was crafted by the benevolent master of the good corpse, especially for me. Little Yaoqi twirled, explaining. He knows I enjoy visiting the primordial, so he fashioned this attire for me. May my agility be enhanced, guiding me through the chaos. How exquisite. She is the most beautiful fairy I have ever beheld in my life. Tongyi, unabashed in his admiration, suddenly had an epiphany. Recalling the moment he first glimpsed the figure of Yaoqi amidst the magma, radiating with a spectrum of colors. Yet, upon arriving at the Zixiao Palace, he was met with a young Taoist boy. It turned out that Yaoqi had changed into a petite dress each time she ventured into the wilderness. Just like the girls from his past life. Fortunately, Yaoqi possessed a delicate charm that rendered makeup unnecessary. Otherwise, a visit to the Zixiao Palace would require an hour's wait. Upon hearing Tongyi's unreserved praise, little Yaoqi was momentarily taken aback, her cheeks instantly flushed. The rosy hue seemed to possess a life of its own, gradually spreading from her ears until her entire face was aglow. Yushi lowered her head slightly, attempting to conceal her bashful countenance with her cascading hair. Daring not to look at Tongyi again, she urged, stop dawdling. Give me your hand. Without waiting for his consent, she grasped Tongyi's hand, her celestial energy surging. In the next instant, they transformed into a radiant arc of colors, vanishing into the chaos. At last, they had arrived. How thrilling. The 33 heavens. A vibrant arc of colors emerged from the chaos. Tongyi, who had just been safeguarded by Yaoqi, landed with a pallid face, still reeling from the harrowing experience. Throughout the journey, he had skirted perilously close to the innate winds and turbulent time-space currents countless times. Each near-death encounter had been averted by Yaoqi's firm grasp, pulling him from the brink of doom. Yet, the terror was palpable. He had survived, but the fright lingered. Boom! Suddenly, a thunderous explosion erupted from afar. Just after landing, with his legs still trembling, Tong Yi instinctively turned his gaze. In the next moment, his eyes sparkled with wonder. Behold, from the east, an abundance of auspicious light and myriad rays of brilliance converged, gathering a vast amount of spiritual energy. What is this? Tong Yi exclaimed in delight. Wow, little monkey, your luck is extraordinary. A treasure has emerged. Beside him, little Yaoqi's face lit up with joy, her eyes glowing. Chapter 10. The Disdain of Dong Wanggong. Mocking the three-legged golden crow. Your luck is truly remarkable, little monkey. Just returning from the chaos to the heavenly realm, and a treasure appears. Let us go take a look. The phenomenon was so grand, it could very well be an innate treasure, dressed in a rainbow-hued skirt. Little Yaoqi exclaimed in excitement as she gazed at the extraordinary sight in the east. Without regard for Tong Yi's trembling legs, she clasped his hand and transformed into a streak of light, soaring towards the spectacle. Though the phenomenon appeared close, the reality was quite distant. One must understand that in the primeval chaos, the earth is vast and boundless, encompassing the 5 continents and 4 seas. In contrast, the heavenly realm is structured into 33 layers, with each ascending domain becoming increasingly confined. Notably, it is worth mentioning that, in the primordial realm, in the unclaimed territories, all living beings shared an unspoken understanding, dividing the expanse into 5 regions: east, west, south, north, and center. It was within this context that Yaoqi and Tong Yi descended from the chaos, finding themselves in the central zone of the 33 heavens. This area also served as the sole passage from the celestial realm to the chaos, as not everyone possesses the capability to traverse such treacherous domains. The number of mighty beings who dared to venture forth was scarce, thus the passage did not require an abundance of guardians. In no time, the radiant Yaoqi, enveloped in a spectrum of colors, whisked Tong Yi to the eastern region of the 33 heavens. Naturally, such a swift traversal of an entire region was made possible by Yaoqi herself, bolstered by the celestial garments crafted by Hongjun. If Yaoqi could navigate the perils of chaos, this distance was trivial. As for the reason they halted miles away, it was twofold. Firstly, the extraordinary phenomenon had not yet dissipated, with spiritual energy still converging like a river towards its heart. Within this spectacle, myriad auspicious energies shimmered brightly. Surrounding it was a protective formation enveloping an area of 10,000 miles, obscuring the view within, compelling them to remain outside its confines. Secondly, Yaoqi discerned that formidable beings were already stationed beyond the phenomenon, representing more than one faction. In the eastern, western, and southern directions outside the formation, powerful figures loomed in the void, their expressions cold as they regarded Yaoqi and Tong Yi. Thus, it was prudent to refrain from breaking the formation. What amused Tong Yi was that, confronted with such a scene, the once willful and proud Yaoqi appeared transformed. Contrary to his expectations, she did not audaciously declare the treasure as her own, but rather maintained an expression of indifference as she led Tong Yi to occupy a position in the northern skies of the phenomenon. Tong Yi stifled a laugh, understanding that, at this moment, Hongjun had yet to attain saintly status. With Yaoqi being merely a Tai golden immortal, her impudent demeanor in the presence of others might not be tolerated, as not everyone would grant her the deference due to Hongjun. Even if they feigned flattery, they might resort to underhanded tactics behind her back. The 4 essential elements of cultivation, law, wealth, companions, and land, placed wealth in the second position, driving many to take risks in pursuit of breakthroughs and greater power. Tong Yi refrained from exposing Yaoqi's masquerade. He stood quietly beside her, his aura subdued, resembling a well-behaved pet. Faced with such an unprecedented situation, he curiously surveyed his surroundings. Having traversed over a millennium, this was his first encounter with beings outside of Hongjun and his companions, not counting the deceased. 3 formidable presences emerged in the eastern void of the phenomenon. 2 young men, clad in resplendent attire with golden hair and eyes, appeared to be brothers, while an elderly man, draped in a gray robe with silver hair cascading down his shoulders, stood modestly behind them, akin to a loyal servant. Yet his sharp aura could not be concealed. After a brief assessment, Tong Yi withdrew his gaze. With the reading volume of the novels he perused in his previous life, he swiftly deduced the true identities of the 3 individuals before him: Emperor Jun, Tai Yi, and the old ancestor Kuenping. Indeed, it was a reasonable conclusion. The brothers, Emperor Jun and Tai Yi, were transformed from the 3-legged golden crows born of the Sun Star, possessing an extraordinarily high pedigree. Moreover, The starry realm of the sun star lay beneath the first heavenly layer of the celestial realm. Thus, the presence of Emperor Jun and Tai here struck Tong Yi as entirely logical. However, he found it somewhat surprising that the old ancestor Kunpeng had allied himself with Emperor Jun and Tai so early on. Had this elder already discerned the imperial fate of Emperor Jun? Such an early investment seemed rather shrewd. No wonder he was dubbed Kunpeng. Tong Yi then shifted his gaze to the west, where only two figures were present. A man and a woman were seated upon a spiritual palanquin, nestled closely together, feeding each other spiritual fruits. Their attire was even more extravagant than that of Emperor Jun and Tai, adorned from head to toe with resplendent treasures, exuding an air of ostentation. Tong Yi could hardly suppress his disdain. Nevertheless, their identities were not difficult to ascertain. They were likely the future Eastern Prince and Western Queen Mother, now known as Daoist Donghua and Fairy Shihua. Daoist Donghua, the Eastern Prince, was born of the Azure Seas, while Fairy Shihua, the Western Queen Mother, hailed from Kunlun. It was unexpected to find this pair together so early, and their unabashed display of affection was almost suffocating. Fortunately, upon glancing northward, Tong Yi felt as though his eyes had been cleansed. There stood a lone woman, akin to a breathtaking painting. Her visage was as radiant as the moon, emanating a gentle glow. Her large, expressive eyes sparkled with purity and innocence. Her figure was slender and graceful, clad in a simple long gown that accentuated her ethereal elegance. As if sensing Tong Yi's gaze, she paused momentarily, returning his stare with a soft smile. By the heavens! A beauty unlike any he had encountered in his past life. Who could she be? Tong Yi marveled internally, feeling that even without acquiring treasures today, the experience was worth it. Yet, in the next moment, a sharp pain surged through his arm. Good heavens! It hurts. Ouch! What are you doing? Tong Yi grimaced and turned to see the previously aloof Xiao Yaoqi shedding her pretense, fervently twisting his arm with her right hand. She then cast a glare toward the woman in the north, her meaning unmistakable. You scoundrel! You are not permitted to gaze at other women in my presence. Xiao Yaoqi retracted her gaze, but her hand remained firmly in place. All right, I promise you. Tong Yi exclaimed in pain, prompting her to finally release him with a huff. Hey, you lot. If you wish to frolic and dally, do so elsewhere. Just then, a voice of utmost arrogance resonated, echoing throughout the realm. This treasure was discovered by my brother and me. We have been guarding it since before its birth. I implore you to depart, for to remain would mean opposing us. As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd from the southwest, northeast, and beyond turned their gazes toward the source of the voice. There, they beheld Tai stepping forth from the eastern side of the formation's luminous barrier, his expression fierce and unyielding. Tong Yi exchanged glances with Yao Qi, his eyes questioning. In the next moment, he received a telepathic message from Yao Qi. Perfectly in sync. These brothers are likely the three-legged golden crows, their cultivation level comparable to mine. However, the more formidable challenge lies in the elder behind them. Known as Kunpeng Ancestor, once a branch of the Phoenix clan, it is astonishing that he survived the Dragonhan calamity, his cultivation unfathomable. Tong Yi was astonished that little Yao Qi possessed such knowledge. He also realized that his previous speculations about their identities had been correct and comprehended the disparity in strength between the three of them and the two of them. This treasure would be difficult to contend for. Yet, they did not retreat, for there were others present as well. In such a situation, there was no need for haste. Greater powers would advocate for them. With this thought, they simultaneously lowered their heads, as if there were ants bustling beneath their feet. Indeed, Tai's domineering words immediately provoked dissatisfaction from a pair of Dao companions to the west of the formation's barrier. This treasure. You claim it as yours merely because you were here first? Before it was born, you claim it? TSK, I could just as easily declare this realm as mine. Since time immemorial, treasures have belonged to the capable. The anomalies have yet to conclude, and the treasure has not been born. To drive others away is to disrupt the established order. From within the palanquin, laughter erupted. Donghua Daoist, cradling his companion, cast a disdainful glance at Emperor Tai, and then, with no restraint, declared, "A beast is a beast, ignorant of etiquette." Upon hearing this, Tong Yi and Yao Qi's eyes lit up, while Tai was consumed by fury. Chapter 11. The ordinary little monkey. The treasure emerges. What the heck? So fierce. Upon hearing Donghua Daoist's direct insult towards Emperor Tai, Tong Yi, who had been feigning interest in the ants, could no longer contain his curiosity and lifted his gaze to witness the unfolding drama. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed that little Yao Qi was equally unable to restrain herself, having already glanced up to observe the spectacle. Her sparkling, beady eyes radiated excitement, and her small fists were tightly clenched, reflecting her enthusiasm. Let them fight. Let them fight. He could even hear her murmuring, "How unethical." Tong Yi shook his head and turned his gaze toward Emperor Tai, internally urging, "Kill him. Kill him. While one person and one monkey were engrossed in their excitement, Tai was utterly furious. Damn Donghua Daoist. Who are you calling a beast? His golden eyes fixed intently on Donghuang Gong, and suddenly, flames erupted fiercely around him. The flames shimmered with a golden hue, suffused with an overwhelming essence of the sun. The surrounding space was instantly scorched and distorted. The spiritual energy that had originally converged towards the phenomenon evaporated entirely around him. Tong Yi, who was watching the spectacle, felt a surge of excitement coursing through him, his eyes brightening and his body trembling. It was not fear, but exhilaration stemming from his unique constitution. This was the first time he utilized the system. Shattering the Nine Heavens flame crystal, which granted him the Nine Heavens flame body and the true fire of the Nine Heavens. Now, witnessing the golden flames emanating from Tai Yi, he found himself involuntarily ecstatic, his eyes and hair turning an even deeper crimson. Calm down. Be quiet. Someone is about to engage in battle. What are you getting so worked up for? Don't attract trouble. Tong Yi urgently admonished the true fire seed, suspended in his dantian. Finally, with a manifestation of his primordial spirit, he managed to suppress it after much coaxing. Fortunately, this peculiar incident passed in the blink of an eye, unnoticed even by the nearby Yaoqi. The flame enveloping him was known as the true fire of the sun, a divine ability belonging to the three-legged golden crow, representing the utmost yang attribute, and said to be capable of incinerating all things. Yaoqi's voice continued to resonate in his ears, and Tong Yi sighed in relief. If even Yaoqi had not detected it, surely it would not draw the attention of others. Today's gathering was composed of Tai Yi golden immortals. Even if he could shatter one, the others could easily overpower him. He reminded himself that treasures could be stealthily seized, but battles could not be fought recklessly. Little did Tong Yi know. As he subdued the fire seed, Di Jun, who stood behind Tai Yi, observed with a composed demeanor, his expression unchanging despite his brother preparing for battle. Kuan Shi, can you discern the origins of that girl? Di Jun transmitted a thought to the Kuan Peng behind him, understanding the need for discretion. Kuan Peng scanned the surroundings with his consciousness and replied without altering his expression, Peak Tai Yi golden immortal. I cannot discern her background. The multicolored celestial skirt she bears is extraordinary, inscribed with runes that elude my understanding. Di Jun, surprised, inquired further through thought. What about the monkey beside her? Kuan Peng replied confidently, unremarkable. Di Jun ceased his responses and discreetly glanced northward, where the monkey appeared exceptionally obedient, its cultivation merely that of a mysterious immortal, indeed, quite ordinary. Yet, he was troubled by the resonance he had sensed earlier. Was it an illusion or emanating from that girl? It was peculiar. All formidable beings in this world had their roots, yet this woman remained inscrutable even to the venerable Kuan Peng, who had lived since the primordial era. Reflecting on this, Di Jun felt a stir of agitation within him. Originally, he had been nearly certain of securing the treasure soon to emerge. He merely awaited its appearance to claim it. Yet now, the peculiar combination of the girl and the monkey evokes an inexplicable unease within Emperor Junkuan. Do you possess the confidence to suppress that ancestral shaman along with Donghua and Shihua? With merely a stick of incense, I could subdue the treasure. After a moment's contemplation, Emperor Jun conveyed his thoughts to Kuanping. Upon hearing this, a glimmer of assurance flickered in Kuanping's keen eyes. Aside from the ancestral shaman, the others, Donghua Daoist and Shihua Fairy, are mere youngsters. The advantage lies with me. As for the girl and the monkey, TSK, they need not be heeded. With this in mind, Kuanping responded to Emperor Jun. When the treasure emerges, focus on breaking the formation and subduing it. Do not concern yourself with anything else. Emperor Jun nodded, with Kuanping, who possesses the cultivation of a great Luo golden immortal, reassuring him. He felt a sense of relief. It is well known that every calamity brings about monumental upheaval, forcing a complete reset. Those who survive are truly extraordinary. Since the Dragonhan calamity and the Great War of the Three Divine Beasts, the Great Luo Golden Immortal has become the pinnacle of existence in this realm. Contemplating this, he took a slight step forward. Just as Tai was about to strike at Donghua Daoist, Emperor Jun interjected, halting Tai with a hand. He addressed the distant treasure carriage with an indifferent tone, Donghua. Your verbal prowess today will be settled in due course. When the treasure emerges, let the capable claim it. For now, cease hostilities to prevent others from reaping the spoils. Upon hearing this, Donghua Daoist, who had been poised to retaliate against the oppressive solar flames, paused momentarily. He turned to consider the other two directions, and, after a brief internal deliberation, waved his hand dismissively towards Emperor Jun, choosing not to pursue the matter further. To be honest, Donghua Daoist is not one to speak ill without cause. His recent disparagement of Emperor Jun and Tai stemmed from the newfound fame of these brothers. Rumored to possess imperial destinies and tyrannical heirs, potentially becoming the next overlords of the primordial realm. This stirred great discontent within Donghua Daoist. Ever since the Dragonhan calamity, the world has begun to flourish anew, with fortunes gradually reviving. Aside from the ancient immortals, Donghua Daoist stands as the most renowned among the new generation of great Luo Golden Immortals, receiving profound respect from the celestial powers, including the likes of Xinyuanzi and Hongyun. Even the three pure ones regard him as a friend, who granted these newly emerged golden crows the audacity to overshadow him. Thus, when he overheard Tai's intent to expel others for treasure, devoid of any decorum, he could not contain his displeasure. However, upon hearing Emperor Jun's words, Donghua Daoist regained his composure. After all, the treasure had yet to surface, and with other factions coveting it, it was indeed unwise to engage in conflict with these two golden crows at this juncture. Who knows what other forces might yet arrive? There is also one crucial point to consider. He had just glanced at the two golden crows and noticed an elderly figure behind them who seemed somewhat familiar. Yet his memory failed to grasp the identity. This realization brought him a measure of calm. The array's luminous barrier loomed in the northern horizon. As Tong Yi and Yao Qi, who had been eagerly anticipating the onset of battle, found themselves in a state of utter bewilderment. Their hopes for entertainment were dashed. Both of their delicate faces furrowed in disappointment. Buzz. At that very moment, the once-gathering spiritual energy came to an abrupt halt. A strange, resonating hum suddenly echoed throughout the heavens and the earth. The resplendent golden light within the array began to retract, revealing a gradually clarifying scene. A little monkey. The treasure is about to reveal itself. Quick look. Little Yao Qi's eyes sparkled with excitement. Tong Yi mirrored her enthusiasm, contemplating how to seize the treasure. However, before they could discern the contours of the treasure within the array's barrier, a graceful figure unexpectedly appeared before them. "Excuse me, are you the Yao Qi fairy?" The newcomer inquired, her voice soft and gentle. Upon hearing this, Tong Yi was momentarily taken aback. Instinctively, he called out to Yao Qi, "Have you gotten into trouble?" Chapter 12. True Holy Mother Hutu. This treasure is mine. Yao Qi, have you gotten into trouble? Why has someone come looking for you? Observing the woman who had suddenly revealed Yao Qi's identity, Tong Yi instinctively took a step back. Adopting a rather chivalrous stance to shield Yao Qi, he then leaned forward. His expression filled with caution as he looked at the woman. Questioning Yao Qi, it was no wonder he took such precautions. For the woman was none other than the stunning beauty he had previously spotted standing at the southern edge of the array's barrier. Up close, her beauty was even more breathtaking, yet the natural aura of authority she exuded placed immense pressure upon Tong Yi. She was clearly not of the same caliber. Her presence was even more formidable than Yao Qi's, suggesting she was at least a great Luo Golden Immortal. It seemed Zhang Wuji's mother was indeed correct. The more beautiful a woman, the more terrifying she could be. The irony was that, at this moment, with the treasure about to manifest, instead of contemplating how to compete for it, this woman had quietly appeared before them and directly unveiled Yao Qi's identity. Tong Yi could hardly entertain any optimistic thoughts. However, to Tong Yi's surprise, the woman appeared momentarily taken aback by his demeanor. Seemingly not anticipating that she would frighten such a small creature, she instinctively took a step back and offered Tong Yi a gentle smile, saying, "Little monkey, please do not misunderstand. I have come to seek your master for a matter of request. I mean no harm. Did I scare you? My apologies." Upon hearing this, both Tong Yi and Yao Qi were momentarily stunned. Uffed. Ha ha. Yao Qi was the first to break the silence, her delicate body shaking with laughter. Observing this, Tong Yi felt helpless. Did he truly resemble a spirit pet? And to think she referred to Yao Qi as his master. Truly, what a situation. Whose spirit pet is so strikingly handsome? Do not presume that your beauty will spare you from my wrath. Tong Yi silently committed this woman to memory, thinking that although he could not confront her now, he would avenge himself in due time. All right, do not be upset, Yao Qi chuckled, gently patting Tong Yi's fluffy head, an action more befitting a spirit pet. Ignoring the resentful gaze of Tong Yi, Yao Qi glanced at the intact formation barrier before turning her attention to the newcomer. "Speak, Hutu, how do you know of me? What brings you here?" A flicker of surprise crossed Hutu's gentle face, seemingly curious about how Yao Qi recognized her, which was soon overshadowed by delight. If she was known, matters would surely be easier to discuss. With this thought, she slightly bowed to Yao Qi and spoke eloquently. This humble girl learned of the celestial child's appearance and origins from the venerable phoenix beneath the immortal fire mountain. "I have come to pay my respects and seek the celestial child's assistance in meeting the Dao ancestor at the Zixiao Palace. I shall forever be grateful for your kindness." Upon hearing this, Yao Qi's brows furrowed slightly, a hint of indignation gracing her charming features. That phoenix has quite the loose tongue. Then, her sparkling eyes shifted towards the formation barrier behind Hutu, and a clever idea sparked within her. "Little monkey, do not hide. She is not a villain. Yao Qi pulled the timid Tong Yi from behind her, explaining, if she were a bad person, there would be no good people left in the heavens. Once Tong Yi stood before Ho Tu, Yao Qi continued, if you wish to visit the master, seeking me will be of no use. I merely handle trivial matters as a celestial child. However, perhaps he could be of assistance. Noticing the look of confusion on Ho Tu's face, she cleared her throat and elaborated, allow me to introduce you. This is my master's sole disciple, the primordial monkey Taoist, Tong Yi. With those words, Yao Qi cast a proud glance at Tong Yi, thinking to herself how clever she was to bestow upon him a title. The master had called him the reincarnation of the mischievous world-destroying monkey, so it was only fitting that he be named the primordial monkey Taoist. Upon hearing this, Ho Tu's eyes widened in astonishment. Meeting Yao Qi's confident gaze and then looking at Tong Yi, her exquisite face was filled with wonder. She had never expected that the disciple of the Tao ancestor would be a little monkey with profound celestial cultivation. Fortunately, having faced many trials, she quickly suppressed her shock, pondering that this little monkey might possess extraordinary roots. After all, who had ever dared to take on such a name as Primordial Taoist? She then bowed to Tong Yi, her voice soft and respectful. I, the ancestral witch Ho Tu, pay my respects to the Primordial Taoist. Meanwhile, Tong Yi, from the moment Yao Qi conversed with Ho Tu, was filled with astonishment, so much so that he overlooked the significance of the title Yao Qi had given him. He truly did not anticipate that the woman before him was none other than Ho Tu. In the past, when the mighty Pangu fell, the essence of his blood transformed into the 12 ancestor witches. Among them was the extraordinarily beautiful woman before him, Ho Tu. In his previous life, Tong Yi harbored a profound disdain for hypocrites and false saints. Yet, the woman before him was an authentic saint. In her later years, unable to bear witnessing the souls of the living wandering aimlessly after death, she emulated Pangu by sacrificing herself to create the cycle of reincarnation. Thus, she established the underworld, granting all beings the opportunity for rebirth. This was the most magnificent merit since the dawn of creation. Even Hong Jun could not surpass her. It was unexpected to encounter her here today, and even more so that she took the initiative to express goodwill and pay her respects. As for her reasons for visiting the Tao ancestor Hong Jun, Tong Yi could surmise some motives, yet he refrained from voicing them. Instead, after clearing the distractions from his mind, he clasped his hands in a gesture of respect and greeted Ho Tu, saying, Greetings, fellow Taoist. Please call me by my given name, Tong Yi, he added. Ho Tu was momentarily taken aback, a delicate blush gracing her alabaster cheeks. Typically, only those who are quite intimate would address one another by their given names. To her surprise, upon their first meeting, this Hanyuan Taoist requested her to call him by his name, rendering her somewhat bashful. Very well, Hanyuan Taoist, Ho Tu replied, her face still flushed. Without allowing Tong Yi the chance to respond, she eagerly stated, I kindly ask you to escort me to the Zixiao Palace. In return, I shall assist you in obtaining this precious artifact. Tong Yi already held a favorable impression of Ho Tu. Accompanying her to the Zixiao Palace was not a burdensome task. Once he became a disciple of the Xianmin and Hong Jun emerged from seclusion, he would undoubtedly have the opportunity to converse. However, he was unprepared for her proactive offer to help him procure a treasure before he even had the chance to agree. Such fortune was too good to refuse. I can assist in blocking everyone present, she continued. Yet at that moment, Ho Tu turned her gaze towards the formation, her brow slightly furrowed. This formation and the acquisition of the treasure require your own effort. It was no wonder she appeared troubled. The artifact was born from a natural formation, a primordial great array formed by the heavens and earth. While the witch clan was indeed proficient in formations, she could not guarantee her ability to breach it alone while simultaneously holding off the forces of Emperor Jun and Tai, as well as the Taoist Donghua. Oh, I was wondering what the matter was. Tong Yi replied without hesitation, stepping forward to agree. I will handle the formation and the treasure myself. You merely need to assist me in restraining them. What a jest. With Ho Tu, such an ancestral witch, to impede them. A mere formation could be shattered with a single blow. As for the treasure within the formation, the system space was aware of it. He could simply toss it directly into the system space. What treasure could possibly breach the confines of the system space? Seeing Tong Yi agree so promptly, Ho Tu revealed a look of understanding, her expression no longer troubled. In her view, the Hanyuan Taoist must have concealed his cultivation. Otherwise, he would not have been so effortlessly agreeable. Perhaps, his mastery of formation techniques surpasses her own. With this thought, Ho Tu finally felt a sense of relief. For the matter at hand, she had traversed the entire primordial realm, consulting countless reclusive powers. Among them was the venerable Yuan Feng beneath the immortal volcano. Yet, none could provide her with an answer. Now, she finally had the opportunity to visit the Zixiao Palace and meet the Tao ancestor. The conundrum that plagued her heart should find resolution, should it not? At this moment, Tong Yi remained oblivious to his newfound grandeur in Ho-Tu's eyes. He gently closed his eyes, mentally simulating the forthcoming treasure acquisition process in 3 dimensions. Let us discuss the procedure he proposed. Barring unforeseen circumstances, this treasure is as good as mine. Tong Yi opened his eyes and waved to Ho-Tu and Yao Qi soon after. The 3 formed a circle to deliberate. Chapter 13. The 3 Light Divine Water. Di Jun was bewildered. Brother, look. The treasure has emerged. What kind of treasure is this? A ruler? On the eastern side of the formation's light shield, as the anomaly dissipated, Tai Yi widened his eyes at the newly revealed treasure, exclaiming, "Strange. Why does this treasure conceal itself, rendering its information completely undetectable?" Di Jun also observed the object materializing within the protective formation, his brow furrowed. The treasure appeared diminutive, resembling a 10-inch square ruler, entirely black, devoid of any radiance, and seemingly ordinary. Most importantly, typically, when a treasure manifests, it radiates relevant information outward. Yet this treasure remained eerily calm, as if it possessed no sentience. This was illogical, for the very essence of the innate formation presupposed that the treasure within was of innate caliber. An innate treasure must at least be an innate spiritual treasure. How could it possibly lack intelligence? Kuan Master, what treasure is this? Di Jun inquired of the venerable Kunpeng behind him. As the saying goes, having an elder in the family is akin to possessing a treasure. The age of Kunpeng granted him invaluable wisdom, which is why Di Jun respected him so. At this moment, Kunpeng gazed intently at the ruler, a look of confusion crossing his face. Suddenly, a spark of insight illuminated his mind, and his murky eyes shone with brilliance. A ruler. It is highly likely to be that treasure. It does not lack intelligence. Rather, it possesses extraordinary wisdom and knows how to disguise itself. Kunpeng exclaimed with fervor, addressing Di Jun, "Quick! You must break the formation directly. I will hold off the others. We shall not allow anyone to succeed before you." Upon hearing the words of Kunpeng, Di Jun's golden and enchanting eyes sparkled with illumination. Such extraordinary intelligence. Capable of disguising oneself? What a treasure! It is imperative that I possess it. Thank you, Master Kuan. I shall depart at once. Tai Yi, assist Master Kuan in deterring others. I shall only require a moment. Di Jun swiftly uttered 2 sentences, and in an instant, his figure surged forward, arriving before the array's luminous barrier, his entire being suddenly quivering. Boom! In that fleeting moment, the same solar true fire that had emanated from Tai Yi erupted forth from Di Jun. However, his mastery over the solar true fire was even more profound than Tai Yi's. The golden flames, once of human size, coalesced under Di Jun's command, ultimately compressing to a mere finger's width before abruptly bursting forth, scorching towards the array's luminous barrier. Hiss hiss. In an instant, a piercing sound resonated throughout the heavens and earth. The luminous barrier visibly burned a cavity, yet before it could be breached, it was swiftly mended by the array itself. This was Di Jun's method of dismantling the array. Generally, there are 2 primary approaches to breaching an array. The first is suitable for those proficient in the principles of arrays, who can deduce the flaws in the array's runes. The second method, as demonstrated by the Panga deity, is brute force. The maintenance of the luminous barrier ultimately requires spiritual energy, as long as one continuously bombards a single point. Until the repair speed of the array cannot keep pace with the destruction, one may create an opening to enter the array. Under normal circumstances, if no one were present, Di Jun was confident that with his expertise in arrays, combined with his innate treasure, the He Tu and Luo Shu, he could undoubtedly breach the array using the first method. Moreover, deciphering such a naturally formed congenital array would enhance his comprehension of the principles of arrays. Alas, the radiance of this treasure's appearance was too overwhelming. Had it not been in the 33rd heaven, there would surely have been even more formidable beings present. Thus, Di Jun had no choice but to resort to brute force. As he focused on controlling the true fire to dismantle the array, a sudden realization struck him that he seemed to have overlooked something. Yet, in the next moment, that thought was swiftly dismissed. No matter the circumstance, breaching the array held paramount importance. Lady Ho-Tu, let us agree on this. I shall trouble you shortly. Once I secure the treasure, do not resist. If they attempt to trouble you, simply state that the treasure is with me and invite them to pursue me instead. Once the task is accomplished, you may locate me using the spatial coordinates within this jade talisman, and I shall escort you to the Zixiao Palace, to the north of the luminous barrier. The 3 had concluded their meeting. The Yao Qi had already departed ahead of schedule as planned. Tong Yi was patiently advising Ho-Tu. This plan felt somewhat dubious. They were helping him, and he could not bring harm to them. Fear not, my friend. This humble woman shall undoubtedly assist you in seizing the treasure. As you breach the formation, I shall guard your rear, ensuring that no one can catch up to you. Witnessing Di Jun commence the dismantling of the formation, Ho Tu respectfully saluted Tong Yi, receiving the jade talisman he offered and tucking it away within her robes. Simultaneously, she felt a surge of astonishment within her heart, for this seemingly inconspicuous jade talisman was imbued entirely with the power of spatial laws. Indeed, the principles of the Tao of space. Truly, the prowess of her friend, Han Yuan, was formidable. It must be acknowledged that only a Han Yuan golden immortal, a figure of quasi-saintly stature, could wield such Tao laws. The scarcity of beings capable of mastering the Tao of space in the vast expanse of the primordial heavens is profound. I had initially been blinded, mistaking him for merely a small Shinxian monkey. Ho Tu endeavored to mask her inner shock before turning resolutely away, having made a firm decision. Di Jun, with an eagerness reminiscent of a monkey, was indeed impatient. Yet, impatience bore no fruit. This treasure was destined to be mine. My dear, assist me in breaching the formation while I dismantle it. At the western edge of the formation's light barrier, upon seeing Di Jun take action, Taoist Donghua promptly rose and soared towards the barrier. Very well, my husband, he declared, as the enchanting fairy Xihua followed closely behind. Though she did not join in breaking the formation. Instead, she turned to face Di Jun and the others, her expression one of vigilance. At that moment, Taoist Donghua also began to dismantle the formation. However, unlike Di Jun, he did not summon treasures or unleash divine powers. Rather, he leisurely retrieved 3 bottles from his sleeves, each adorned in distinct hues, gold, silver, and purple. With a flick of his fingers, he uncorked the golden bottle. In the next instant, a droplet of radiant golden liquid soared forth, gracefully landing upon the formation's light barrier. The sound of corrosive hissing filled the air, echoing through the heavens and earth. At a glance, the rate at which this droplet eroded the formation was swifter than even Di Jun's divine solar flames. Such a spectacle immediately captured the attention of both the ancestral Kunpeng and Tai. What is this? Exclaimed Kunpeng, his eyes widening with greed. This was none other than the 3 light divine water. Having seen much in his time, he recognized it instantly. This was the premier holy water of the primordial realm, derived from the essence of the sun, moon, and stars. The golden sunlight divine water could corrode flesh and blood. The silver moonlight divine water could erode the souls of the primordial spirit, and the purple starlight divine water could deconstruct true spiritual consciousness. Each of these divine waters was imbued with lethal toxicity, yet when combined, they formed the foremost healing elixir of the primordial realm, capable of detoxifying myriad poisons, curing countless ailments, and even restoring life. Kunpeng had not anticipated that a mere junior, who had only recently emerged from the Dragonhan calamity, would possess such a divine remedy, one so extravagant that it was intended for salvation, yet was being utilized to breach a formation. Such a waste of heavenly treasures. Such a waste of celestial treasures. Well, since you show no regard for them, they shall all belong to me. Kunpeng sought a splendid excuse for his actions. Boom. In the next moment, the robes of the ancestral Kunpeng billowed with energy. Without the slightest hesitation, he charged towards the Taoist Donghua. His speed was unparalleled, leaving behind only a fleeting shadow as the very fabric of space warped and distorted in response to his velocity. He could have approached stealthily, but in his eyes, as a senior figure, striking first would breach the established decorum. Thus, he unleashed his murderous intent without disguise. He acted with honor. Ultimately, it was a matter of rightful action. How swift! The expression of the fairy Xihua changed dramatically. Though she had long been on guard, she had still underestimated Kunpeng's speed and strength. Just a moment ago, he merely cast a glance her way, and in the next breath, he had traversed countless miles to stand before her. Block. At the last possible moment, Xihua could only muster a thought. She summoned the magnificent palanquin, which had served as her conveyance, to shield her. Boom. In an instant, the palanquin shattered into countless pieces. Xihua was sent hurtling backward, bloodied and plummeting toward the cloud peaks, her fate uncertain. Yet Kunpeng's figure surged forth like a shattered arrow, his speed accelerating as he charged towards Taoist Donghua. My lady. Seeking death. Everything happened too swiftly for Taoist Donghua to react. Fear seized his heart. He could only hastily wave his right hand and splatter the divine sunlight water towards Kunpeng. You scoundrel. No honor in battle. As Kunpeng beheld the droplets of divine sunlight water rushing toward him, he cursed vehemently, his face paling instantly. No matter how powerful he was, or how much he coveted the divine water, he dared not receive it with his face. Kunpeng was so startled that he nearly lost his wits. Then, in a move of astonishing speed, he reversed course and fled. Kunpeng, I recognize you. Old rogue, you are Kunpeng. Upon witnessing Kunpeng's techniques, Taoist Donghua's mind raced with memories, and he cursed aloud. Yet, he could think of nothing else, abandoning even his magical artifacts. He swiftly stowed away the divine sunlight water and turned to chase in the direction where Xihua had been sent flying. His love for her was genuine. Crack! At that very moment, as both were momentarily distracted, a crisp sound resonated throughout the heavens, echoing endlessly. The array's luminous barrier, which enveloped a radius of 10,000 miles, suddenly shattered entirely. Indeed, it did not begin to break at a single point and gradually expand, but rather, in an instant, it burst apart completely, dissipating into nothingness. How is this possible? The solar true fire is so formidable? Taoist Donghua, in disbelief, turned to look, exclaiming in astonishment. He had forgotten all about the fate of his beloved. The young master truly possesses the fate of an emperor. The soaring Kunpeng, upon witnessing the event, was filled with astonishment. Although he could not comprehend how Emperor Jun had accomplished such a feat, he felt reassured in his choice of allegiance, promptly addressing him as young master. Unbeknownst to them, at that moment, Emperor Jun, who was intently manipulating the true fire of the sun to break the formation, was equally bewildered. Me? I have not succeeded either, he thought, staring blankly at the suddenly vanished protective barrier of the grand array, in a state of disbelief. Suddenly, he sensed something and raised his gaze towards the center of the formation. To his astonishment, he beheld a fiery red figure appear at the heart of the array, swiftly seizing a square ruler into its embrace. The figure then turned to him, flashed a grin, and vanished without a trace. Emperor Jun's eyes widened in disbelief. Indeed, it was not he who had shattered the grand formation. For a fleeting moment, he had doubted it was his doing. Tai, capture him! Emperor Jun exclaimed in exasperation, his voice breaking with the intensity of his outcry. Chapter 14. Comprehending the laws of the formation path. Emperor Jun summoned the river map and the Luo book. Ding. Successfully shattered the innate grand formation. Ding. Achieved a minor breakthrough in comprehending the laws of the formation path. At this moment, Tong Yi paid no heed to the notification echoing in his mind. After acquiring the treasure, he immediately unleashed his divine ability, Spatial Jump. As ripples emanated around him, he vanished from his original position, reappearing 100,000 miles away. Tai, capture him! The instant Tong Yi materialized, he was met with Emperor Jun's furious roar from behind. Simultaneously, due to this outburst, three formidable consciousnesses, Kunpeng, Tai, and the Taoist Donghua, began to converge upon him. Damn it! Hutu, I'm counting on you. Tong Yi shouted inwardly, disregarding the depletion of his magical energy. He invoked Spatial Jump once more, this time executing it 9 consecutive times. The overwhelming consumption drained his internal magical energy completely. In an instant, he leaped through the void, each jump directed towards a different trajectory, all in an effort to evade the pursuing consciousness. In the blink of an eye, he traversed millions of miles. When Tong Yi finally emerged from the void and his feet touched the ground, he collapsed, utterly fatigued, his complexion as pale as death. Little monkey, did you truly acquire the treasure? A figure supported him, astonishment and joy evident on her face. Who else but Yaoqi, who had not adhered to the plan and remained at this location. At that moment, Yaoqi gazed at the limp Tong Yi, her heart filled with utter astonishment. Just moments before, when Tong Yi proposed this plan, she had harbored immense skepticism. In his scheme, she, a Tai golden immortal, was to serve merely as a means for the final leg of the journey, while Hutu, a physical body at the great Luo golden immortal level, was to serve as the obstacle. And yet, the crucial task of breaking the formation and seizing the treasure had been accomplished solely by Tong Yi himself. Yet, before she could voice her objections, Hutu readily acquiesced. Yaoqi was momentarily taken aback, unsure of Hutu's confidence in the young monkey's capabilities. However, upon repeated assurances from Tong Yi, Yaoqi reluctantly consented to the plan, agreeing to wait for Tong Yi 100,000 miles away. In her view, should Tong Yi fail to appear as scheduled, she would immediately return to offer assistance. Thus, when she witnessed Tong Yi indeed arriving as planned, the astonishment within her was beyond words. She dared assert that no one understood Tong Yi better than she did. After all, he was the one she had brought from the primordial lands to the Zixiao Palace. And yet, what had he just employed? The laws of space. Such powers could only be grasped by those at the level of Deluo or Quasi-Saint. How could a mere monkey of the Xianxian realm comprehend such principles? Moreover, he traversed a distance of 100,000 miles in one breath. Let us go. Tong Yi understood Yaoqi's astonishment, yet there was no time for explanations, as a deafening roar erupted from behind. Terrifying shockwaves surged towards them, the ground beneath their feet crumbling and sinking to great depths. It was evident how fierce the battle raged behind them. Clearly, Huda had engaged with the likes of Kunpeng and the others. This incited a flicker of concern within Tong Yi, though such worries were futile. They could not linger. They must continue executing the plan and enter the chaotic space for Huda's safety and their rightful claim to the treasures. Oh, Let us go. After regaining her composure, Yaoqi hesitated not a moment longer. With tremendous vigor, she scooped Tong Yi into her arms, her figure transforming into a cascade of vibrant light as she soared toward the central region. They needed to enter the chaos through the passage above the central area to truly secure the treasure. For no one understood the chaotic space better than she, aside from the Dao ancestor Hongjun. In that moment, Yaoqi unleashed unprecedented speed, increasingly admiring the meticulousness of Tong Yi's plan. Every step was calculated with precision. How curious it was, she pondered, what kind of mind this little monkey possessed. Behind them, several figures were engaged in a tumultuous chase, clashing with fervor. Fortunately, the distressing scenario Tong Yi and Yaoqi had feared did not unfold. Hutu, why do you obstruct me? Curse it. Who is that monkey that you defend so fiercely? At this moment, Dijuan was seething with rage, almost to the point of spitting blood. He was filled with astonishment, fury, and deep regret. Astonishment at the means by which that monkey had breached the innate formation. He still could not fathom it. Regretful that during the formation's breach, he had nearly recalled the unsettling combination of that monkey and the girl. If only at that moment, he could compel Tai to fix his gaze upon that monkey, perhaps preventing the treasure from being snatched away. It was infuriating. Why did the ancestral witch Hutu obstruct them? And indeed, she did obstruct them. At that moment, Hutu stood alone upon a giant bird crafted from yellow clay. The bird's elongated tail connected to the earth, continuously devouring the soil within a vast radius. An abundance of earth surged from the bird's belly and, upon being expelled from its mouth, transformed into an array of creatures fashioned from yellow clay. These creatures were innumerable, and even a slight adhesion would render them exceedingly heavy. No matter how much Dijuan, Tai, and Kunpeng struck, burned, or froze, they invariably reverted to earth once more. If they disregarded everything else and solely attacked Hutu, she would not engage them directly, but would instead retreat. Thus, Hutu single-handedly impeded a great Luo and two Tai with the earth of the 33rd heaven, retreating while obstructing their path. Kunchi, you must devise a solution. Tai shouted in frustration, swinging his hand to incinerate a patch of yellow clay dogs. He was consumed by anger and self-reproach. To him, their trio had formed a remarkably perfect combination. His brother Dijuan would break the formation, Kunpeng would prevent others from doing so, and he, Tai, would safeguard his brother. Such a flawless alliance should have guaranteed the treasure for them. Yet, he could not fathom from where that monkey had emerged, swiftly dismantling the formation and seizing the treasure. By the time he realized what had transpired and attempted to pursue, he found the adversary had vanished into the void. Although the distance was not great, the repeated attempts had caused him to lose track. Then he encountered Hutu's obstruction. Unable to comprehend the situation, he could only implore Kunpeng for assistance. At that moment, Kunpeng was equally vexed. Upon hearing Tai's question, he nearly rolled his eyes. If only Tai had exercised a bit more foresight and attention, would such a predicament have arisen? Now, the treasure was gone, Donghua Daoren had fled, and the Three Lights' divine water was unattainable. To make matters worse, they were now entangled with the ancestral witch Hutu. Kunpeng could not help but curse Tai internally. In all honesty, he had no desire to confront Hutu. The thought of her 11 siblings, all great Luo, or even quasi-saints, loomed ominously in his mind, causing him considerable distress. Unlike the inexperienced Dijuan and Tai, Kunpeng was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. Thus, he dared not unleash his full power against Hutu. This was the force of the laws of the earth. While the monkey had not yet escaped far, there was still a chance. Let us summon our accompanying treasures. Let them be revealed. He proposed urgently. Young master, lend me the Luo Shu. I shall pursue. Kunpeng's mind raced as he quickly devised a strategy, communicating telepathically with Dijuan and Tai. He recognized that they had long been reluctant to reveal their trump cards. After all, as long as one retains a hidden card, there exists the possibility of survival through it. Thus, he swiftly conveyed, that is indeed a treasure of merit, the celestial measuring ruler. Upon hearing this, Dijuan's eyes transformed from gold to crimson, blood red. What? A treasure of merit. Tai, the chaotic bell. Upon realizing that the artifact pilfered by the monkey was a treasure of merit, Dijun succumbed to madness, roaring in fury. Simultaneously, he hesitated but a moment before summoning his two accompanying innate treasures, the He-Tu and Luo Shu. The He-Tu shimmered, transforming into a verdant radiance that instantaneously obscured the heavens. The Luo Shu then flew into the hands of Kunpeng. Boom! Tai Yi, no longer holding back, summoned forth a colossal bell radiating 5-colored brilliance, which hung in the sky and shook violently. Dong! At the moment the bell tolled, it seemed as if the very cosmos was immobilized. Countless yellow clay figures of flying beasts and terrestrial creatures froze and shattered. Even the Earth Mother appeared as if paralyzed, her whole being rigid. The gigantic bird beneath her was struck by the sound waves and turned to dust. Meanwhile, the verdant radiance of the He-2, under Di Jun's command, enveloped the Earth Mother, who was plummeting. Whoosh! Seizing this moment, the ancestral Kuan Peng was engulfed by a tempest, his robes billowing, transforming into a gigantic rock soaring into the sky, ascending swiftly to an altitude of 90,000 miles. The Luo Shu, summoned forth, transformed into a celestial disk before him, guiding his path with precise indication towards Tong Yi's location in the Yao Pool. Damnable Jr. With the ancestral wings spanning 90,000 miles, can you escape? Once I catch up, I shall surely tear you apart. The eyes of Kuan Peng were filled with shadows, his wings unfurling to rend the heavens asunder. Chapter 15. Targeted by Luo Shu, plunging into chaos at the final moment. Whoosh! Little monkey, ahead lies the chaos. In the central region of the 33rd heaven, a stream of 7-colored light streaked across, akin to a meteor slicing through the sky. Embraced by Yao Pool, holding Tong Yi, she gazed at the passage leading to chaos in the distant horizon, exhaling deeply. Then, she proudly addressed the child in her arms. Am I not splendid? Once we enter the chaos, this treasure shall be yours. Indeed splendid, but we cannot afford to slacken. Let us proceed at full speed. Encouraged by Yao Pool's embrace, Tong Yi urged on. He was acutely aware that this position was rather undignified, yet he had no choice. He was utterly drained of strength. He had not anticipated the severe repercussions of invoking his divine powers tenfold all at once. His entire being was rendered limp. He remained uncertain of the Earth Mother's fate. Logically speaking, with the treasure in his possession, they should not dare to harm her, should they? Tong Yi looked back with a hint of worry. Hearing this, Yao Pool snorted, dying monkey, lying in my embrace, and still thinking of other women. However, the mere thought of Hutu facing Di Jun, Tai Yi, and Kuan Peng alone, perhaps even with Dong Hua and Shi Hua against her, made Yaoqi's irritation dissipate. That woman truly defied provocation. Yaoqi, hurry up. Something is pursuing us. At that moment, Tong Yi, who had been vigilant, widened his eyes and shouted. What is it? Fear not, little monkey. Ahead lies the entrance to chaos. Yaoqi responded, her expression serious as she maintained her speed. Tong Yi squinted to observe closely. It lacked a physical form, resembling a square pattern. It's moving incredibly fast, heading straight for us. Upon hearing Tong Yi's description, Yaoqi's mind instantly conjured a realization. Heavenly circle and earthly square. The river chart and Luo book. This is one of Di Jun's treasures, the Luo book, capable of tracing and tracking. Rest assured, little monkey. With the aid of my colorful gauzy skirt, Di Jun cannot catch up to me. Yaoqi reassured Tong Yi, who remained unconvinced. There was no time for him to marvel at Yaoqi's brilliance, for he spotted a mass of gray mist on the horizon, hurtling toward them at an astonishing speed. The pace was so swift that it traversed 100,000 miles in the blink of an eye, almost matching his own spatial leap. Yet, therein lay the dilemma. His method was a divine power, exceedingly taxing, while the foe pursued at a natural velocity. In an instant, a sense of foreboding enveloped Tong Yi. Perhaps you should glance behind. Is that Di Jun? He timidly inquired of Yaoqi. Curiously, she released her divine sense to scan the rear. The next moment, her demeanor shifted to one of alarm. It's Kuan Peng. He possesses two forms, soaring as a Peng in the heavens, and transforming into a Kuan in the seas. I understand now. Di Jun has lent him the Luo book. Just as Yaoqi articulated her thoughts on Kuan Peng, a chilling voice echoed from behind. Running? Do you think you can escape before this old ancestor? Little girl, halt and surrender your monkey to me, and I shall allow you to depart. At this juncture, Kuan Peng regarded the vibrant light ahead and exhaled in relief, speaking aloud. His words were not meant to deceive Yaoqi, but stemmed from apprehension. It was crucial to note that Yaoqi's speed was only slightly inferior to his own. Was this reasonable? He was a pinnacle of Deluo, having manifested his true form as a great Peng, renowned for unparalleled speed in his realm. Yet, the adversary? Despite her extraordinary prowess, she was merely a peak Tai Yi golden immortal. It was utterly illogical. Nevertheless, Kuan Peng's keen gaze discerned that all this was due to the colorful gauzy skirt adorning her. He further perceived that this garment was not innate, but rather crafted through postnatal refinement. This can only indicate one reason. The girl possesses an extraordinary background. As a member of the Phoenix clan, Kuan Peng has survived the calamities of the Dragon Han era, while the three great beast clans have suffered immense casualties and fallen silent. What has enabled him to endure? It is none other than caution, and extreme caution. To live long, one must adhere to a simple principle. Avoid provoking trouble whenever possible. Once trouble arises, it must be eradicated at its roots. Take, for instance, Hutu. Even if you were to defeat her, what would that achieve? Could you kill her? If not, you would only have to face the wrath of the entire Wu clan. Therefore, he would not personally harm Hutu, but would instead delegate that task to Di Juntai. When disaster truly strikes, everyone must look after themselves. As for why Kunpeng desired the monkey, it was because he could not discern the whereabouts of the celestial measuring ruler concealed by Tony. There was no way to sense its location. Thus, he had to rely on Tony. Dream on. I would rather die than hand over the little monkey to you. Yaoqi responded without looking back after hearing Kunpeng's words. She steadfastly gazed at the horizon ahead. It was so close. Die? Upon hearing such a resolute reply, Kunpeng immediately made a decision, a glint of murderous intent flashing in his sharp eyes. In light of this, he would indeed eradicate her completely. After all, as long as he acquired the celestial measuring ruler, he would not fear who was backing Yaoqi. For the celestial measuring ruler is a treasure of virtue, devoid of karmic retribution when it comes to taking lives. This treasure, he must obtain at all costs. Whoosh. With this thought, he flared his enormous wings, lowering his body into a hunting stance aimed at Yaoqi. His speed surged once more. Hearing the sound of the fabric of space being torn behind him, a chilling sensation spread within Yaoqi's heart, making her acutely aware that she was being treated as prey. Yet, she did not display an ounce of fear. Instead, after glancing down at the little monkey in her arms, she retrieved a pill from her sleeve and suddenly swallowed it. What are you doing? What are you eating? Spit it out. Seeing this scene, Tony was taken aback and immediately inquired. A sense of foreboding enveloped him, but he felt utterly powerless, his reaction sluggish, rendering him incapable of stopping Yaoqi. Yet, Yaoqi flashed him a reassuring smile. It's nothing, just a pill I prepared for breaking through my bottleneck. I always believed I could achieve it on my own, but it seems I was mistaken. Don't worry, little monkey. I won't let anything happen to you. Yaoqi reassured him once more, but in that moment, Tony fell silent. He was uncertain of his standing in Yaoqi's heart. Though they had known each other for only a short time and had spent little time together, she trusted him unconditionally and acted on that trust. Tony realized that. At this moment, Yaoqi held significant weight in his heart. Crack. At that instant, a dull sound resonated from within the body of Yaoqi, akin to something shattering. Buzz. 5 distinct orbs of radiant gas surged forth from her internal organs, ascending towards her head. Suddenly, they unified without the slightest hindrance. The 5 energies converged, culminating in a tremendous explosion. In the next instant, her aura surged exponentially, multiplying several times over, relentlessly climbing. She ascended from the pinnacle of the Tai Golden Immortal Realm to the early stages of the Deluo Golden Immortal Realm. At that very moment, her speed erupted as well. In the blink of an eye, she soared into the sky with a velocity so swift that even the Kunpeng could not react, racing towards the entrance of the chaotic space. Chapter 16. Do you really think I'm a sick monkey? The entire expanse of chaos shattered. A breakthrough? And she vanished into the chaos? Has this girl lost her mind? The ancestral Kunpeng was utterly dumbfounded. He had already approached Yaoqi and was confident that within 3 breaths, he could capture her. What unfolded instead? Right beneath his very nose, she forcefully unified the 5 energies and ascended to the Deluo Golden Immortal Realm. Moreover, her speed had drastically increased. Like a rainbow lightning bolt, she shot into the heavens, leaving him no time to react before she vanished into the chaotic space. Damn it! What kind of elixir has she consumed? The Deluo Golden Immortal Realm. To break through just like that? Who exactly stands behind her? The Kunpeng ancestor fell into a state of stupor, lingering beneath the entrance of the chaotic space, his expression shifting constantly. Generally, no one would willingly venture into the chaotic space. Legends spoke of innate treasures being birthed deep within the chaos, even artifacts beyond the innate realm. Yet the chaos itself was utterly disordered, with the forces of the laws nearly impossible to control. Entering did not guarantee one's return. Thus, even a being of Kunpeng's caliber hesitated at that moment. In his view, Yaoqi's entry into the chaos was an act of reckless audacity, braving tremendous peril to evade him, leaving him disheartened regarding the measurement of heaven. At this juncture, he faced 2 choices. One was to enter the chaos. Normally, he would not dare to tread so lightly, but with the Luo book to guide him, he would not risk becoming lost within. The other option was to wait here. He did not believe that Yaoqi could remain in the chaos for long. It would not be long before she would be unable to resist returning to the primordial realm. This was the sole entrance. By guarding it, he was certain that Yaoqi would eventually emerge. However, this choice bore significant risks. If the girl were to become lost in the chaos, or even perish, would not the measurement of heaven be forever lost within the chaos? With this thought, the Kunpeng ancestor found himself in a quandary, his immense form flitting back and forth beneath the entrance of the chaotic space, indecisive. Just then, a swift motion occurred. Suddenly, 2 piercing sounds shattered the air, and Kunpeng's cold gaze fell upon the source, momentarily taken aback. Kunchi, where's that monkey? Kunchi, did you acquire the celestial measuring ruler? The voice arrived before the figure did. 2 blazing suns, resembling the three-legged golden crows, soared through the void. Who else could they be but Dijuan and Tai? And Hutu? Kuanping paused, doubting the capability of these brothers to have vanquished Hutu. There could only be one explanation: something was amiss. We summoned our accompanying treasures. And she suddenly ceased her pursuit, vanishing. Tai responded, his tone tinged with confusion. Upon hearing this, Kuanping's understanding deepened, his expression darkening. That girl has taken the monkey into the chaos. What? Dijuan and Tai exclaimed in unison, turning their gazes toward the entrance to the chaos. All they could perceive was an endless void of silence and turmoil, no sign of life or shadow. How could this be? Their speed is so astonishing that even you, Kunshi, could not catch up? Dijuan's face turned grim, yet he voiced his bewilderment. Even he, not the sharpest, recognized the connection between Hutu and the thieving monkey. The coincidence was too striking. Once they slipped into the chaos, Hutu ceased her pursuit. Faced with Dijuan's inquiry, Kuanping, once brimming with confidence, now found himself in an awkward position. His lips twitched as he hastily responded. That girl has broken through to the Great Luo. And with that seven-colored cloud skirt as her endowment, her speed rivals my own. Great Luo. Both Dijuan and Tai wore expressions of disbelief, with Tai's eyes reflecting skepticism. He suspected that Kuanping might be embellishing the capabilities of the mysterious girl out of embarrassment for his inability to catch her. Yet, he possessed no proof. Dismissing further thoughts, Tai called out to Kuanping, "What of the chaos? Pursue her. That is a treasure of immense merit." To him, the chaos held no fear. With his brother's Luoshu in hand, they would not lose their way. As for the inherent dangers of the chaos, such as the primal winds, what peril could a cultivator not face? Hearing Tai's reckless words, Kuanping could only shake his head, casting a glance at Dijuan. Although both brothers bore the imperial mandate, he held greater faith in Dijuan over the brash Tai. At that moment, Dijuan gazed into the desolate chaos, his eyes flickering with determination, his expression rife with unwillingness. A treasure of merit. It would have been better had he remained ignorant. Yet now that he knew, he could not bring himself to relinquish it. While he possessed his accompanying treasures, the Hichu and Luoshu, these items primarily served to assist. If he could acquire the celestial measuring ruler, a treasure of merit that would not entangle him in karmic retribution, the likelihood of success in his grand ambitions would undoubtedly increase. With this in mind, Dijuan hesitated no longer. Clenching his teeth, he declared, "I shall pursue." Upon hearing these words, admiration dawned on both Tai and Kuanping. Tai, as ever, held deep respect for his elder brother. In the presence of Emperor Jun, Kuanping discerned the vigor of youthful sovereignty. Ah, how splendid is youth, brimming with decisiveness. Yet, having made the choice to ally with him, there is no room for hesitation. Kuanping cast a deep gaze at Emperor Jun, resolutely deciding within, "I shall proceed. She has already attained the Great Way. You cannot catch her. Even if you were to catch up, you may not pose a threat. I will bring her back. You all stay hidden in this passage, and once she emerges, unleash your treasures to suppress her." Kuanping instructed Emperor Jun and Tai, and without waiting for their consent, she swiftly soared into the chaotic entrance of the heavens. Within the chaos, Yaoqi moved gracefully, akin to a fish gliding through water, her form as ethereal as a startled swan. Each time she neared fragments of space or chaotic storms, she evaded them with the brilliance of a rainbow lightning. I have informed Hutu not to intercept Emperor Jun anymore. Thankfully, she remains unscathed, Yaoqi said, retracting the jade talisman from her embrace. Although her mastery of spatial laws was merely rudimentary, the talisman she had condensed for Hutu possessed numerous functions. In the chaotic expanse, the primordial laws of heaven and earth were absent. Many forces of the laws could be subdued by the chaotic laws, resulting in an uncontrollable tumult. Yet, some formidable laws remained exceptions, and his spatial laws were among them. Time may be fleeting, but space reigns supreme. This is no jest. Are you well? Though you have broken through, I sense your aura is unstable. The flower above your head appears as if it could shatter at any moment. Tong Yi looked up at the flower hovering above Yaoqi. The path of the Tai Golden Immortal involves harmonizing the 5 energies, while the Great Luo Golden Immortal requires the gathering of 3 flowers at the crown, just as he had articulated. Yaoqi's ascent to the Great Luo Golden Immortal was achieved through elixirs, and the first flower she had just coalesced remained precarious. Without fortification, she risked to fall from her newfound state. I am fine. We shall arrive soon. An unsettling feeling lingers within me, as if unseen eyes are observing from behind. Yaoqi's deep, dark eyes gazed forward, her voice resolute. No sooner had she spoken, her expression shifted, and she abruptly dodged to the side. Whoosh! Boom! In the next moment, a blade forged from the force of the wind's law struck where she previously stood. The blade missed its mark, but from it emanated Kuanping's chilling voice. "Girl, your flower is about to shatter. If you wish to live, return to me." Damn! Tong Yi turned to look behind him. Indeed, he saw Kunpeng pursuing them, accompanied by Luo Shu. How audacious! Do they truly consider me a feeble monkey? Observing the cooldown timer on his system panel had expired, Tong Yi's eyes turned icy, and an aura of dreadful destruction surged forth from his right hand. In the next instant, he unleashed a powerful punch. Under the influence of spatial laws, the force of the punch soared across 1,000 miles. Behind him, the eyelids of Kunpeng twitched as he instinctively flapped his wings. Propelled by the countless experiences accumulated from the Yuan Wei, his figure suddenly darted backward to evade the imminent danger. Yet, his face turned ashen, for the sense of impending death lingered. Without a moment's hesitation, the pendant before him shattered abruptly, transforming into a surge of spatial law power that enveloped him. However, just as he was about to be teleported away, it was too late. No, the despairing roar of the Kunpeng ancestor echoed. In the next instant, the entire chaotic space spanning 1,000 miles, along with the Kunpeng ancestor, was utterly obliterated. Chapter 17. The Annihilation of Kunpeng Ancestor. Returning to Zixiao Palace to count the gains. Ding. Successfully obliterated Kunpeng Ancestor. Ding. Received feedback. Golden Immortal Cultivation Level. Ding. Received feedback. Ding. Successfully shattered the innate spiritual treasure. Luoshu. Ding. Received feedback. Small achievement in the comprehension of array laws. Ding. Received feedback. Ding. The quantity of feedback is excessive and has been stored in the system space. Please retrieve it, host. As the series of notifications echoed in his mind, Tong Yi felt his head spinning. He widened his eyes, staring at the collapsing chaos behind him, utterly dumbfounded. What? Did I really hit him? Kunpeng is dead? Not only Kunpeng, but even the Luoshu and the spatial fragments within 1,000 miles were annihilated. It was the first time he had shattered more than one target. After the initial shock, Tong Yi was overcome with delight and relief. The joy stemmed from the fact that this was his first time utilizing the power of spatial laws in conjunction with the system. The extensive range of 1,000 miles affirmed that he was on the right path. With future advancements in the realm of spatial laws, his punches would undoubtedly become even more terrifying. As for the relief, it was self-evident. That old rascal Kunpeng had forced Yaoqi to resort to elixirs to break through her bottleneck. Although Yaoqi claimed it was inconsequential, how could it possibly be so? Was there truly no difference between breaking through comprehension and relying on medicinal pills? Moreover, he had thought that once Kunpeng entered the chaos, he would cease his pursuit. Yet, he had the audacity to chase after him again. If he didn't perish, who would? Little monkey, what happened behind? Why has it suddenly gone quiet? Whereas Kunpeng? The chaotic space had been obliterated, and such a tremendous uproar could not have escaped Yaoqi's notice. However, she was still preoccupied with the worry of Kunpeng catching up, solely focused on protecting Tong Yi and returning to Zixiao Palace, completely devoid of the energy to extend her consciousness backward. Little one, it's best not to inquire too deeply. Everything is fine. Kunpeng has gone to find his mother, Tong Yi replied, not knowing how else to respond. Upon hearing this, Yaoqi's petite face furrowed in confusion. I haven't heard that Kunpeng's mother is still alive. Yet, she did not dwell on it further. As she sensed the first flower hovering above her head, its instability became increasingly apparent. If she did not return to the Zixiao Palace soon to stabilize her cultivation, she feared her foundation might suffer irreparably. With this thought, she resolved to stop dwelling on her concerns. During this outing, she had encountered countless astonishing events surrounding Tong Yi, leaving her with numerous questions. For instance, how had he managed to break the innate formation? What treasures lay within that formation? From where had they been obtained? And when had Tong Yi comprehended the laws of space? The questions were abundant, yet Yaoqi understood that once everything settled, the little monkey would willingly share his insights. Fortunately, they encountered no unexpected occurrences thereafter. Guided by the resonance of the Zixiao Heart Sutra, Yaoqi led Tong Yi deeper into the chaos, ultimately returning to the Zixiao Palace. This was precisely why Hudu had initially sought Yaoqi's assistance. Everyone was aware that the cave abode of the Taoist patriarch Hongjun was called the Zixiao Palace, but few knew its location within the vast wilderness. No one would ever suspect that it resided deep within the chaos. Even if someone were aware, they would be unable to locate it, for at that moment, the Zixiao Palace drifted aimlessly through the depths of chaos. Without the guidance of the Zixiao Heart Sutra, attempting to find the Zixiao Palace in the boundless expanse of chaos would be akin to chasing after phantoms. Little monkey, I am going to consolidate my cultivation. Rest well. I will settle accounts with you once I emerge. Upon landing before the grand hall of the Zixiao Palace, Yaoqi set Tong Yi down and, without lingering, soared directly to her residence. Tong Yi wore a helpless expression. He had already restored his magical powers, yet Yaoqi insisted on carrying him, leaving him with no choice. Fortunately, this scene went unnoticed by Hao Yin, who was likely still engrossed in his training. Poor lad, unaware that when he concludes his cultivation, he will find Yaoqi has ascended to the status of a great Luo golden immortal. Tong Yi chuckled softly before heading towards the scripture pavilion. With no other option, he returned to the place where he had been seated for countless years, feeling a mix of nostalgia. It seemed as though he had ventured out and yet remained in place. Nonetheless, the rewards were indeed plentiful. As Tong Yi's consciousness delved into the system space, he beheld 5 luminous spheres radiating brilliant light. Beside them, a black square ruler floated silently. As his awareness swept across, the information of each sphere surged into clarity. He first examined the first sphere, which contained the feedback for shattering the innate formation, understanding of formation laws, minor accomplishment. An innate formation exchanged for a minor insight was, to be honest, quite valuable, as it was precisely what Tong Yi currently required. He chose not to employ it immediately and shifted his gaze toward the next sphere. After vanquishing the Kunpeng, one of the rewards received was the pinnacle of golden immortal cultivation. In this regard, Tong Yi felt no dissatisfaction. Although the Kunpeng possessed the realm of the great Luo golden immortal and might even be an ancient one, the system's annihilation of it allowed him to reap some benefits. The opportunity to slay the Kunpeng was paramount in providing him with a sense of vindication. Furthermore, the pinnacle of golden immortal. A typical cultivator would require myriad yuan meetings to attain such a level. This implies that upon utilizing this luminous orb, he would truly possess limitless lifespan. What is there to be discontented about? He did not immediately employ this orb, instead turning his gaze to the next reward. The second feedback from the destruction of the Kunpeng was bloodline inheritance of Kunpeng. In other words, by using this orb, could he reconstruct his bloodline to become a Kunpeng? System, can the feedback you provide be utilized by others? Tong Yi inwardly inquired of the system. In the past, every target he obliterated yielded feedback that was directly infused into himself. This time, with so many rewards manifested as orbs, had he perhaps unlocked a hidden function? After all, he would undoubtedly shatter more entities in the future. If similar feedback were to accumulate, would it not be a waste? If he could share it with others, it would be a different matter altogether. Soon, the system's ethereal voice resonated. To answer the host, all feedback from destruction is at the host's discretion regarding the recipient. Hearing this, Tong Yi's eyes sparkled with joy. This was splendid. He could retain the bloodline and later nurture a pet chicken, infusing it with the bloodline of the Kunpeng. He then turned his attention to the remaining 2 orbs, the array conceptualization diagram and divination of the 9 palaces acquired from the decomposition of the Luoshu. Tong Yi was captivated. Previously, the rewards he received were directly bestowed upon him. This time, however, it was different. The conceptualization diagram was easily comprehensible through visualization. It could continuously enhance his understanding of array laws. The divination of the 9 palaces, when combined with his comprehension of array techniques, would yield tremendous results in any future endeavors. It can be said that each of these rewards would incite envy among the mighty across the heavens. Yet, he wondered how the Emperor Jun of the Hichu would react to this. Speaking of which, with the Kunpeng subdued, Hutu was safe. What about the brothers Emperor Jun and Tai? Boom. At that very moment, a wave of profound energy suddenly emanated from the depths of the Purple Sky Palace. In an instant, this wave swept through the chaos, cascading into the heavenly realm, the primordial world, and ultimately resonating throughout the myriad heavens. At this moment, all beings across the multitudes rose, gazing upwards in astonishment. A figure was cast upon the vast expanse of the primordial earth, radiating resplendent purple light, majestic and towering. It inspired no thought of rebellion whatsoever. Whoosh! As Tong Yi stepped forward, he found himself atop the scripture pavilion, his face alight with astonishment as he gazed into the depths of the Zixiao Palace. The Grand Master Hong Jun has emerged from his seclusion. No, it would be more accurate to say that his revered teacher has attained sanctification. Chapter 18. Hong Jun achieves sanctification, yet still called Grand Master rather than teacher? High above the 9 layers of clouds, upon the meditation cushion of the Tao, the voice of Hong Jun resonated. In the midst of the profound mysteries of heaven and earth, I shall preside as the esteemed teacher. I am Hong Jun, and I have now attained sanctity. Observing the bewilderment of sentient beings, lost without a path, I shall impart the Tao for 3,000 in the Zixiao Palace. Those who are destined, those who are capable, may come forth to hear the teachings. As the majestic figure of Grand Master Hong Jun was cast upon the vast expanse of the primordial heavens, a voice, enigmatic and profound, echoed in the ears of every living being. Regardless of their roots or levels of cultivation, all creatures distinctly heard his words. In that instant, the multitude was overcome with awe, an irresistible urge to prostrate themselves welling within their hearts. We pay homage to the sage Hong Jun. The throngs knelt and cried out towards the formidable figure in the sky. Even countless untamed beasts, yet to awaken their wisdom, bent their knees in reverence. Even the flora and trees bowed their branches in humility. In response to the profound respect of all beings, the grand silhouette reflected in the heavens gracefully faded, transforming into violet rain that showered upon the realms. When the violet dew descended upon the earth, countless parched and cracked lands instantaneously rejuvenated, sprouting green shoots in the blink of an eye. And when the dew fell upon the sentient beings, astonishment gripped them. My damaged foundation. It has been restored. Thank you, Grand Master. I am grateful to the sage for awakening my wisdom. The bottleneck of my cultivation has loosened. I need not succumb to old age. I express my gratitude to the Grand Master. Thank you for your benevolence. Voices filled with surprise and gratitude resonated throughout the primordial lands and into every corner of the heavens. At that moment, every living being received the blessings of Hongjuan's sanctification. Whether it was the awakening of ordinary souls or the healing of cultivators' foundations, all beings were overwhelmed with heartfelt gratitude, sincerely bowing in worship to Grand Master Hongjuan. With the attainment of sanctity came the bestowal of blessings upon all beings, such as the way of the sage. Meanwhile, the mighty ones of the heavens were even more excited than ordinary creatures. Without a doubt, the Grand Master has achieved sanctification. How wonderful! The confusions that have plagued my lifelong pursuit of Tao have found no answers until today, when I finally have the opportunity to meet the Grand Master. The reason he is referred to as the Grand Master of the Tao is said to be his lifelong dedication to resolving the doubts of seekers. Little did we expect that even after attaining sanctity, the Grand Master remains as magnificent as ever. Look, the ethereal visage of the Zixiao Palace has appeared. It emerges from the chaos. No wonder there has been no news from the Zixiao Palace for so long. What? The Zixiao Palace is beyond the 33 heavens? Is it over? Will I be able to meet the Grand Master safely? At that moment, the Zixiao Palace radiated brilliance. A myriad of violet lights spreading forth from the chaos, flickering and elusive, like a flowing river guiding the seekers of the Tao. This scene was nothing short of breathtaking. Let the mighty beings of the heavens be filled with both joy and astonishment. The joy stems from the emergence of the foremost sage of the primordial era, who shall impart wisdom and enlightenment to these great powers. A sage's teachings are indeed unprecedented, and they all have the opportunity to partake. The astonishment arises from the revelation that the Purple Cloud Palace does not reside within the vast expanse of the primordial world or any lesser realms, but is instead situated amidst the chaos beyond the 33 heavens. This revelation instills trepidation in many of the timid beings who have barely attained the status of Great Luo Jingxian. The perils of chaos are well understood by all, requiring no further elaboration. Nevertheless, a greater number of powerful beings, gritting their teeth, resolutely soared forth from their abodes, transforming into streaks of light as they ascended towards the 33 heavens. The sage's sermon is an opportunity not to be missed. Perhaps it is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Atop Kunlun Mountain, an extraordinary cliff, resembling a colossal beast, stands majestically, exuding a rich aura of auspiciousness. Upon this precipice, 3 palaces rise, known as the 8 Scenery Palace, the Jade Void Palace, and the Azure Flow Palace. At this moment, 3 Taoists stand outside the palaces, gazing upwards towards the chaos. Elder brother, the sage is about to impart his teachings. Should we not go? Indeed, I have just deduced that those who arrive first will encounter immense fortune. What are we waiting for? Let us depart, my 2 brothers. Following this brief yet effective exchange, 3 streams of pure energy suddenly ascended into the sky, vanishing from sight. In the Wanshou mountain range, an ancient Taoist temple stands resilient atop the peak. Within the courtyard of the temple, beneath a towering ancient tree, sits a table with 2 chairs occupied by 2 Taoists. Old Yuan, shall we go? Once a fellow practitioner, now a sage. If you go, you shall be of a lower generation. Of course I shall go. A true master is one who surpasses others, while I merely open the path for earth immortals. He has paved the entire celestial way and has now attained sainthood, rightfully deserving the title of Tao Ancestor. Upon finishing, the 2 exchanged a knowing smile, and with a flicker of their figures, they vanished in an instant, one red and one gold, streaking away into the void. Such scenes are continuously unfolding across the abodes and blessed lands of the primordial heavens. In less than a moment, countless beings from the primordial realm witness streaks of light emerging from all directions, converging towards the central mountain range of Buzhou. Entering the chaos necessitates traversing the heavenly realm. And within the heavenly realm, the only passage is the celestial ladder at the summit of Buzhou Mountain. Meanwhile, at the Purple Cloud Palace, as Tong Yi stood above the scripture vault, the towering figure of Tao Ancestor Hongjun materialized in the celestial firmament. Little one, climbing so high, be cautious lest you fall. Upon hearing this familiar voice, Tong Yi joyfully looked down, only to discover a simple and ancient silhouette that had appeared at the entrance of the scripture vault. Who else could it be but the Dao Ancestor, now a sage? I pay my respects to the Dao Ancestor. Congratulations on attaining sainthood. Overwhelmed with excitement, he leaped from the top of the scripture vault without a moment's hesitation, landing before the Dao Ancestor. With both hands clasped in a gesture of reverence, he performed a profound bow. Hong Jun, the Dao Ancestor, remained silent, gazing intently at Tong Yi. Tong Yi did not rise, maintaining his respectful stance. The scene mirrored their initial encounter from times past. After a span of 3 breaths, Hong Jun murmured to himself, his curiosity piqued. The more he observed Tong Yi, the more astonished he became. He had anticipated that upon emerging from his seclusion and attaining sainthood, all beings would lay bare before him. However, to his surprise, upon beholding Tong Yi, he found himself engulfed in a veil of chaos, unable to perceive the past or foresee the future. In his quest to discern the threads of causality, he found not a single strand. It is essential to recognize that all beings are bound by the laws of cause and effect, and such strands must inevitably arise during their intersections, whether favorable or adverse. Those adept in the profound laws of causality can utilize these strands to seek out enemies or fated companions. Yet, in Tong Yi's case, there was not a single thread, not even a trace. This revelation caused Hong Jun, freshly sanctified, to feel a tremor within his heart. Fortunately, there remained one aspect he could discern, Tong Yi's cultivation level. However, as Hong Jun discerned the depth of Tong Yi's prowess, his heart jolted. The pinnacle of Xianxian. How little time had passed. His recent retreat had spanned merely over a millennium. This little monkey had ascended from the early stages of Earth Immortal to Xianxian. He recalled having bestowed upon Tong Yi only the introductory section of the Zixiao Heart Sutra, which, at its culmination, would yield merely the zenith of true immortal. But now, this signified that not only had his test been surpassed, but it had also been exceeded. In this moment, to preserve the image of the foremost saint in the primordial realm, Hong Jun's heart surged with tumultuous waves, yet his exterior remained composed and indifferent. This disciple must be accepted. Such an extraordinary anomaly must be retained within his grasp to maintain the proper course of heavenly mysteries. Meanwhile, Tong Yi, who remained bowed, felt an unsettling anxiety. He could not fathom why the Dao Ancestor had muttered such peculiarities, but it must be connected to the system within him. Although the system had previously assured him that there was no need for concern regarding detection, even a saint would not perceive its existence. Being scrutinized by the foremost saint of the primordial realm made it impossible for Tong Yi to feign calmness. At that moment, a voice, tempered with detachment yet imbued with kindness, reached his ears. Why do you still address me as Dao Ancestor? Why not call me Master? Upon hearing these words, Tong Yi's mind erupted in joyous exhilaration. He had succeeded. Chapter 19. The Direct Disciple Tong Yi. 2 matters. From this day forth, you shall be my direct disciple, Hong Jun proclaimed, as he beheld Tong Yi raise his head, his face alight with delight. The esteemed Hong Jun spoke slowly, feeling a sense of relief within. After all, the continuous shocks he experienced from the other party were relentless. Yet, what did it matter? No matter how extraordinary you may be, you shall henceforth be my disciple. Whether you are a dragon or a phoenix, you must be tamed. What Hong Jun was unaware of was that at this moment, upon hearing the news of being accepted as a disciple, particularly as a direct disciple, Tong Yi was overwhelmed with euphoric joy. However, what occupied his mind was the thought of having a powerful backing to rely on in the event of trouble. And not just any backing, but the foremost support of the primordial world. From henceforth, who would dare to cross him? With this thought, Tong Yi suppressed his overwhelming excitement and knelt before Hong Jun, respectfully proclaiming, "Disciple pays homage to Master." At that very moment, sensing the fluctuations of Hong Jun's sanctified aura, both Yao Qi and Hao Yan emerged from their seclusion. Upon appearing before the scripture pavilion, they beheld the scene of Tong Yi paying his respects to his master. Yao Qi beamed with joy, exclaiming that the little monkey had finally achieved his wish. Hao Yan, momentarily taken aback, then broke into a smile, realizing that after all these years, their master finally had a disciple. Regardless of how close they were to Hong Jun, they were merely celestial children, not disciples. Thus, they genuinely wished to see their master take on a disciple and pass on the teachings of the Zixiao Palace. If that disciple were to be Tong Yi, their elation would only deepen. After all, they had witnessed the little monkey's emergence into the world, coupled with the time spent together. Yao Qi had grown exceedingly fond of the little monkey, while Hao Yan held no disdain for him. Congratulations, Master, on attaining sanctification and accepting your first disciple. Yao Qi and Hao Yan hurriedly approached, their faces beaming with smiles as they bowed to Hong Jun. Not just a first disciple, but a direct disciple. Tong Yi, at Hong Jun's gesture, rose with an air of pride and addressed Yao Qi and Hao Yan. Upon hearing this, even the delighted Yao Qi and Hao Yan were momentarily taken aback. They exchanged glances, observing the astonishment reflected in each other's eyes. Though they knew that Tong Yi had passed their master's trials and exceeded expectations, they had assumed he would at most be accepted as an inner disciple. Yet, a direct disciple. It is essential to understand that disciples are categorized as recorded, outer, inner, and direct. While it may seem a minor distinction of mere two characters, the implications are worlds apart. It is not to say that being an inner disciple is inferior. Generally speaking, inner disciples have access to most of the sect's techniques, including a few core methods. However, a direct disciple, that is a singular honor. They will receive all the most critical teachings and bear the responsibility of inheriting everything from the sect in the future. For instance, what is the most core method of Hongjun? Nature is the path to transcending the three corpses and attaining sainthood. However, for disciples of both the outer and inner sects, Hongjun possesses the authority to choose whether or not to impart the technique of severing the three corpses. Yet, for his direct disciple Tong Yi, Hongjun is compelled to teach him, and he must ensure that Tong Yi masters it. Should he falter, penalties will ensue until mastery is achieved. This delineates the distinction between inner disciples and direct disciples. Thus, when Hao Yan and Yao Qi learned of this revelation, their astonishment was palpable. After all, at Hongjun's exalted level, he is imperishable and eternal. Even if he chose not to accept direct disciples, it would pose no issue. Yet today, he has made such an acceptance. Greetings, senior brother. After grappling with the tumultuous waves of shock within, Hao Yan and Yao Qi finally regained their composure, hastily stabilizing their minds and bowing respectfully to Tong Yi. In response, Tong Yi beamed with satisfaction, placing his hands behind his back, nodding with a smile. Well done, my dear junior brother and junior sister. From now on, your senior brother shall take good care of you both. Once I achieve enlightenment, whatever you desire, I shall aid you in obtaining it. Upon hearing these words, Hao Yan and Yao Qi initially paid little heed. However, in the next moment, their eyes widened in realization, as if struck by divine insight. Although Tong Yi currently remains at the level of a profound immortal, given his astonishing cultivation speed, how far off could the realms of Deluo and Quasi-Saint be? Upon receiving the legacy of his esteemed lineage, he might ascend to sainthood quite soon. The promise of a saint is inherently invaluable. With this thought, Yao Qi and Hao Yan swiftly appeared before Tong Yi, their dark, lustrous eyes sparkling as they chorused in their youthful voices. Then we thank you in advance, senior brother. Their demeanor radiated an endearing innocence. Do not rush to express gratitude. The condition is that your performance must meet my expectations, Tong Yi chuckled. No sooner had he spoken than the two of them flanked him, one squeezing his shoulder and the other his thigh. Enough of the antics, you two. I have a task for you. Hongjun, the saint, interjected with a hint of exasperation. These two celestial children possessed such pure hearts, perpetually caught in their youthful innocence. He had anticipated their maturation with time, yet now, with the acceptance of Tong Yi as a disciple, it seemed that Hao Yan and Yao Qi's growth would remain a distant prospect. As Hongjun spoke, the three immediately ceased their playful banter and arranged themselves before him in an orderly fashion. I have opened the Purple Cloud Palace and am prepared to impart teachings. Soon, there will be visitors eager to listen. You two are responsible for their reception. Once the number of listeners exceeds 3,000, the Purple Cloud Palace shall be closed without delay, he instructed Hao Yan and Yao Qi. Although they were curious about the sudden sermon, they held no doubts, nodding in agreement. You, little monkey, come with me to the main hall. Now that you have become my disciple, it is my duty to impart the teachings and bestow upon you the gifts of apprenticeship. Hongjun, the Taoist ancestor, addressed Tong Yi. Upon hearing this, Tong Yi's eyes sparkled with excitement as he obediently replied, Yes, master. I also have 2 matters to discuss with you shortly. Oh. Hongjun felt a surge of curiosity regarding the newly accepted disciple and wondered what he might have to say. However, he merely nodded slightly before vanishing from sight. Wonderful. Little monkey, the master is about to bestow upon you mystical teachings and treasures. Let me tell you, do not hesitate. The master possesses an abundance of treasures that he scarcely utilizes. The 2 celestial youths were particularly concerned about Tong Yi's earlier remark regarding their performance. Thus, once Hongjun departed, they flanked Tong Yi, eagerly exchanging words and sharing a plethora of information. Tong Yi's mind buzzed with the overwhelming influx of details. Stop, stop, stop. You have performed admirably. No need to say more. Tong Yi hurriedly raised his hands in surrender. To divert the attention, he promptly inquired, Yao Qi, has your Deluo cultivation been solidified? Upon hearing this, the 2 celestial youths, who were originally on the same side, suddenly fell silent. You have reached Deluo? Hao Yan exclaimed, clutching his chest, his face a mask of disbelief as he gazed at Yao Qi. Well, I encountered danger while out with the little monkey, and I had no choice but to break through. Yao Qi replied, fidgeting and reluctant to elaborate further. I won't listen. I want to cultivate. I must go and cultivate. Hao Ian shouted while covering his ears and turning away. Meanwhile, Tong Yi seized the opportunity to slip away and made his way into the grand hall of the Zixiao Palace. Having spent countless years in the Zixiao Palace, this was his first time stepping into the grand hall. Speak, what are the two matters you wish to discuss with your master? Just as he entered the hall, Tong Yi had yet to survey his surroundings when he heard Hongjun Daozu's inquiry. Tong Yi was taken aback. Was he that eager? More eager than I? Chapter 20. The Grand Hall of Zixiao Palace, Fulfilling Promises. 1,000 years ago, I was wholly focused on merging the three corpses. Thus, my quiet entry into the Zixiao Palace was indeed a lapse on my part. I never anticipated that he would fall into your hands. The Grand Hall of the Zixiao Palace existed as a realm unto itself, vast and magnificent. 9 colossal pillars soared from the ground, supporting a celestial expanse above. Surrounding the hall were vivid murals depicting myriad creatures, both avian and terrestrial, brought to life with remarkable detail. In the center stood a Tao platform, beneath which lay an orderly arrangement of countless meditation cushions, numbering 3,000. At this moment, Hongjun Daozu sat serenely upon the Tao platform. After listening attentively to Tong Yi recount the events concerning Yang Mei, he gazed at Tong Yi and inquired, "He claims that I will kill the 3 of them. Do you believe it?" Upon hearing this, Tong Yi, standing beneath the stone platform and appearing exceedingly obedient, trembled all over, feeling as though he were pierced by needles. A lump lodged in his throat. With such a question posed by his master, how could he dare respond otherwise? The reason he chose to divulge all matters concerning Yang Mei to Hongjun today was due to the fact that these events transpired within the Zixiao Palace. Tong Yi feared this might be a test from Hongjun, hence he dared not conceal anything. As for Hongjun's statement regarding Yang Mei's retreat into the Zixiao Palace being an oversight, Tong Yi found himself unable to refute it. It is crucial to note that he referred to it as an oversight, not as ignorance. Can this be scrutinized? Certainly not. When Hongjun finally inquired whether he believed in him, the master, as the ancestor of the Tao, had opened the path to immortality for the benefit of all beings, serving as a paragon for his disciples. Thus, Tong Yi wholeheartedly trusted his master. He gazed at the Tao ancestor, his eyes brimming with innocence as he spoke. "You, mischievous one." Yet, he observed the Tao ancestor shake his head with a wry smile before continuing. "In days of yore, I, alongside the cosmic forces of Yin, Yang, and Yang Mei, received the celestial mandate to eradicate the demonic cult." Tong Yi's expression shifted in shock. Curiosity piqued as he asked, "Is it true that Luoho was so formidable that even you could not subdue him?" Hongjun nodded. Luoho is the very essence of the demonic path reincarnated. He established the extermination formation within the demonic cult's domain. Only through the combined strength of the 4 of us were we able to breach the formation and slay Luoho, annihilating the demonic cult, and thereby earning the celestial merits and rewards. The method of severing the 3 corpses was derived from my own enlightenment, which I then perfected with the aid of the celestial merits. Upon hearing this, Tong Yi blinked in astonishment. "So, this is the origin of the method of severing the 3 corpses?" This diverged from Yang Mei's account, who claimed that the technique was a collective achievement, suggesting that Hongjun had eliminated the 3 of them to monopolize it. Contemplating this, Tong Yi became resolute in his belief that Yang Mei had indeed lied. While others may have a duplicitous master, how could his own master possibly engage in such treachery? It was utterly inconceivable. Hongjun, seemingly oblivious to Tong Yi's unease, continued, "Yet, even the most resilient creature may not perish easily. Although Luoho is dead, our quartet faced discord regarding the shattered demonic path. I believed we should obliterate the demonic cult's domain, including Mount Shumi, to eliminate future threats. However, the other 3 insisted on preservation, claiming that the myriad paths, including the demonic, held value for study." Unable to restrain himself, Tong Yi interjected, "So, did Master leave out of shame for associating with them?" Hongjun turned his gaze towards Tong Yi, a look of approval gracing his features as he remarked, "It is more accurate to say that differing philosophies render collaboration impossible. Furthermore, having refined the method of severing the 3 corpses, my focus was solely upon it, hence my departure from the West. Little did I know that later, I would discover the 3 of them had succumbed to greed, blinding themselves to the truth, leading to mutual slaughter. Ultimately, none of them remained, their whereabouts unknown. I never expected that Yang Mei would be left with only a remnant of his soul and body, quietly entering my Zixiao Palace." Upon hearing this, Tong Yi nodded in understanding, a look of realization dawning upon him. "So this is the true narrative. I am grateful I have always believed in my master. Otherwise, falling prey to Yang Mei's schemes while misunderstanding my master would have burdened me with lifelong guilt." Listening to Tong Yi's sincere words, Hongjun couldn't help but sigh. Pressing his forehead in exasperation, this disciple, Despite having been born in the Zixiao Palace, where did he acquire such eloquence? Enough of this. Let us move past this matter. What is the second issue? Seeing Tong Yi about to speak again, Hongjun hastily gestured for him to stop. Tong Yi chuckled knowingly. He had done this intentionally, as the matter concerning Yang Mei's lingering soul entailed numerous complications, including secrets of his system. By allowing this topic to pass, it was beneficial for both him and Hongjun. He believed that his master was undoubtedly aware of this unspoken understanding. Before discussing the second matter, his master first requested to examine something else. After Tong Yi finished speaking, he retrieved a dark, square ruler from his ear. To Tong Yi's astonishment, this ruler, which had behaved docilely within the confines of the system space, sprang to life the moment he produced it, darting away like a frenzied rabbit. It began to wildly navigate the Zixiao Hall, seemingly in search of an exit. In the blink of an eye, it charged multiple times towards the open door, only to be thwarted by an invisible barrier each time. Tong Yi shook his head in disbelief. This object possessed a degree of intelligence, albeit a limited one. This item was indeed the treasure Tong Yi had obtained openly from the 33 heavens. He had yet to examine it closely since acquiring it, and now it was fortuitously presented to Hongjun. As for the possibility of Hongjun seizing it, what a jest! If Hongjun desired it, Tong Yi would gladly offer it. He had ample means to ensure that Hongjun would return anything taken from him tenfold. Oh, Hongjun's eyes brightened as he waved his hand. The ruler was instantly lifted by an unseen force and landed in the hands of the Dao ancestor. In that moment, the ruler trembled slightly and became still once more. The Hongmeng measuring ruler was a treasure of profound merit, formed at the dawn of creation from the fusion of unclaimed merit and primordial energy, subsequently absorbing the essence of countless epochs of heaven and earth. It could facilitate killings without incurring karmic repercussions or generating obstacles. Moreover, it could aid in the communication with the grand principles of heaven and earth, hastening the understanding of spatial laws. What a splendid treasure! Where did it come from? Tong Yi listened intently as Hongjun expounded upon the ruler, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He had not expected that this seemingly unremarkable black ruler was, in fact, the measuring ruler. Furthermore, it possessed such extraordinary capabilities. What a windfall! Wouldn't Di Jun be weeping upon learning of this? Tong Yi, brimming with exhilaration, felt no need to conceal anything and began to explain. This brings us to the second matter. During my master's retreat, I journeyed with the Yaoqi to the primordial chaos. Upon descending from the 33 heavens, we encountered the emergence of a treasure. The ancestral witch, Hutu, assisted me in acquiring this item, but she requested one favor in return. No sooner had he finished speaking than Hongjun let the ruler drop back into Tong Yi's hands. So, to obtain this treasure, you have sold out your master? Hongjun gazed down at Tong Yi from the dais, his expression inscrutable, revealing neither joy nor anger. Yet, it was evident that he had surmised the essence of this second matter. Tong Yi felt somewhat perplexed, but bowed humbly, saying, "If my master finds this matter troublesome, I shall return this treasure to Hutu." If not for the image of the supreme sage of the primordial era, Hongjun would have truly rolled his eyes at this moment. Could you bear to do that? He chuckled in frustration and waved his hand dismissively, saying, all right, you may bring Hutu to meet me later." Tong Yi grinned widely. "Thank you, master. I promise to fulfill this." Hutu had rendered such significant assistance. Had Hongjun refused, he would have resorted to throwing a tantrum. After all, it was just the two of them in the grand hall, with no fear of being seen. Is everything settled? If you have no further matters, we shall proceed with my affairs. This is the complete Zixiao Heart Sutra, which will aid you in cultivating to the peak of the quasi-saint level. Upon finishing his words, Hongjun waved his right hand, and a beam of purple light descended into Tong Yi's grasp. Tong Yi acted without hesitation, stowing the jade tablet away without even a glance, then looked up at Hongjun with eager anticipation. His movements were fluid and graceful, like flowing water. The Heart Sutra was merely the first step. Even the Yaoqi and Hao Yan possessed it. The real spectacle was yet to come. Witnessing this scene, Hongjun clenched his hands hidden within his sleeves, questioning his decision to accept this disciple. Was this not excessively reckless? Entrusting him with the title of the eldest senior brother of the Xianmen? Was it truly reliable? Chapter 21. The Treasure of Time's Tao, borrowing the creation jade dish. Since you have become my direct disciple, I shall impart to you the method of severing the 3 corpses today. This technique has 4 realms, requiring the elimination of your own 3 corpses: the virtuous corpse, the malevolent corpse, and the self-corpse. Upon reaching the final step, the 3 corpses will merge into one, achieving completion. After imparting the Zixiao Heart Sutra, Hongjun Daozu proceeded to introduce his most treasured method, the technique of severing the 3 corpses, which was sought after by all in the primordial realms. Upon completing his explanation, he pointed with his right hand, and a purple light, akin to countless stars, entered Tong Yi's forehead. In that instant, Tong Yi felt a purple orb of light manifest in his mind. This orb bore a resemblance to the light orbs reflected by the system, yet differed in that the system's orbs could be directly infused, while this purple light required personal comprehension. "Thank you, Master, for bestowing this method," Tong Yi exclaimed, kneeling down without any delay. He proceeded to perform 3 kneelings and 9 prostrations before Hongjun Daozu. Throughout the process, Hongjun watched Tong Yi with a smile, and only after the rites were completed did he gently raise his hand. Tong Yi felt an invisible force lifting him up as the two exchanged smiles. Having obtained the method of severing the 3 corpses and completed the rites of respect, their master-disciple bond was instantly established. Although Hongjun could not perceive any causal threads connecting to Tong Yi due to the system's concealment, Tong Yi himself felt an enigmatic relationship growing between them. In the future, all scriptures, secret arts, and historical records within the scripture pavilion will be open to you. However, you must not destroy any unique copies. If you truly wish to do so, I suggest you first learn artifact forging. After obtaining their copies, you may proceed as you wish. Listening to Hongjun's seemingly knowing admonition, Tong Yi nodded gently, exhibiting utmost obedience. Yet, within his heart, he mused that the path had been laid out, and what followed would surely be treasures. Indeed. In the next moment, Hongjun spoke. "At last, my disciple, I shall bestow upon you one more treasure. What type do you desire?" Tong Yi blinked. Without a hint of hesitation, he articulated his premeditated answer. Disciple wishes for a treasure related to the laws of time. Indeed, in Tong Yi's perspective, a treasure embodying the laws of time would be of the utmost assistance to him. Having witnessed the vastness of the system's range, enhanced by the power of the spatial Tao, capable of striking down even formidable beings like the Kunpeng with a single blow, he had been fixated on the laws of time. The ability to shatter with one punch each day was currently his greatest shortcoming. If he could accelerate time and harness the power of a golden immortal within the system's space, his lifespan would be boundless. Who could possibly rival him then? However, upon hearing his request, Hongjun appeared momentarily taken aback. Surely not. Tong Yi's eyes widened. Does even my esteemed master lack such a treasure? Hongjun nodded, explaining, the laws of time are peculiar. Only those of innate nature can cultivate them, and they are virtually extinct in the Honghuang realm. There once existed an innate being named the Taoist of time. In pursuit of the true essence of the laws of time, he sought out most of the innate treasures that embodied these laws. Even those innate beings who comprehended the laws of time were largely slain and devoured by him. Upon hearing this, Tong Yi nearly leaped up in outrage. How immoral, he thought. How could there be such a person in this world? In pursuit of his own Tao, he amassed all treasures of the laws of time and consumed other enlightened beings. How then could he accelerate time? Was it possible to comprehend it by sheer will? Impossible. He was acutely aware of his own limitations. Master, where is the Taoist of time now? Tong Yi pressed on, unwilling to relent. You will not find him. Hongjun shook his head. In his quest for transcendence, he delved into the river of time, seeking to merge with it. Unless he chooses to emerge, even I cannot locate him. This revelation left Tong Yi deeply disheartened. No wonder the system was designed to operate once a day. He had foolishly believed it a flaw. Observing his woeful demeanor, Hongjun felt a pang of sympathy. With a sigh, he conceded, very well, since I have taken you as my direct disciple, I cannot be stingy. I possess a treasure known as the Creation Jade Disc. It originally contained 3,000 creations, among which the laws of time resided. Alas, when Pangu opened the heavens, it was damaged and now only remnants remain. As Hongjun spoke, a fragment of the jade disc materialized in his hand. Though the fragment was incomplete, it emanated an aura of profound creation, instantly evoking a sense of the extraordinary. There were many things he chose not to elaborate on. In truth, the method of severing the 3 corpses was derived from his comprehension of the fragments of the primordial jade disc. It can be said that this jade disc has played a pivotal role in the ascendance of the present Tao ancestor. Initially, he had no intention of revealing this treasure. However, since Tong Yi had broached the subject, if he were to deliberately conceal it, a rift would inevitably arise between master and disciple in the future. Tong Yi gazed in astonishment. In his previous life, he had indeed encountered the fragments of the primordial jade disc in novels, but he was unaware of the depth of its significance. It was unexpected that Hongjun would actually present it. This treasure is more precious than any innate supreme artifact. It is said that if complete, its rank would surpass that of the innate supreme treasures. Although this is merely a fragment, even his master has not fully comprehended it. Today, I shall lend it to you for the comprehension of the Tao of time. Should you still be unable to grasp the principles of time after the Yuanhui, it must be returned to me. Before he could ponder further, he saw Hongjun wave his sleeve, and the fragment of the jade disc steadily fell into his hand. Ding! The fragment of the primordial jade disc has been detected. Do you wish to shatter it? Upon hearing the prompt in his mind, Tong E's right hand trembled, nearly losing his grip on the fragment. Hong Jun had made it unmistakably clear. It was alone for the purpose of comprehending the Tao of time, not a gift. If he were to shatter it inadvertently, would he be expelled from the sect on the spot? Yet, this also confirmed an undeniable truth. This object is indeed real. Hong Jun has truly lent me the fragment of the primordial jade disc. With this thought, he promptly transferred it to his left hand, his expression shifting from playful to one of unprecedented seriousness. Disciple thanks Master for lending this treasure. I shall surely grasp the laws of time within the Yuanhui. Tong Yi bowed once more. A warmth enveloped his heart.